All right, everyone, welcome to the Tuesday edition of Reality Check here on the home of Black Talk Media. It's none other than WURD. Welcome to the program. Welcome to the post-Democratic National Convention Day 1 edition of Reality Check. I'm your host, executive producer, also creator of Reality Check, Charles Ellison. Also your correspondent, your creator for hashtag Word on Politics. Follow hashtag Word on Politics. We were sort of reactivating that, rebooting that last night, particularly on Twitter. If you all noticed, hashtag Word on Politics for all your wall-to-wall political coverage, all your wall-to-wall 2020 coverage here on WURD, particularly on Reality Check. Welcome to the program. Once again, I'm Charles Ellison, and you can catch me, by the way, on Twitter at Ellison Report, hashtag Reality Check. That's where we, we sort of swim about in the digital space. We do that on twitter.com at Ellison Report, hashtag Reality Check. How are you all doing? Phone lines are wide open. Phone lines are wide open this 10 o'clock hour here on Reality Check 215. So once again, let me say that. Yeah, phone lines are open this wide open 10 o'clock hour, 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Once again, that is 215-634-8065. Toll free, it is 866-361-0900. We're doing open phone lines this first hour of Reality Check on this Tuesday edition. And then at around 11 o'clock, phone lines will remain open as we bring on Mike Green. Mike Green joining us for a segment. He's going to talk about Black business productivity and racial equity, particularly in a time like this. So we'll be having Mike Green on. Some of you, every now and then occasionally like to hear Mike Green and enjoy when he's here on Reality Check. So he'll be back in the 11 o'clock hour. Mike Green, economic strategist, one of our regular contributors here on Reality Check. Also a little bit later on, the 11 o'clock hour, we have a strategist segment. We'll be bringing on our partner, in-house polling expert, Stefan Hankin of Lincoln Park Strategies. Lincoln Park Strategies, as you know, we've occasionally partnered up with them to bring us some great polling insights, particularly looking more specifically at the Black vote. Stefan Hankin coming on a little bit later on, the 11 o'clock hour, to talk about convention bumps. Are we seeing a bump? Are we seeing any sort of polling bump? Will this convention, this all virtual convention, help Democrats at all? How much will it be a major contrast from the Republican National Convention that will be taking place next week? We're going to have 2 full straight weeks of conventions, of the major political party conventions, of the presidential candidates presenting themselves or officially rolling out their campaigns to the broader general American public. We'll be covering that here. We'll be talking about that here on Reality Check for the next couple of weeks, and we'll be doing that at hashtag Word on Politics. So Stefan Hank is going to be joining us a little bit later on, the 11 o'clock hour. Also, in the noon hour, we'll be talking with the Urban Institute's Rob Santos about the 2020 census. That's that other important thing that you have to do, that you have to take, you have to participate in. That is another free activity, It takes you, but I would say 10, if you have to think about some of the answers to the questions, no more than 15 minutes to take the 2020 census. And if you haven't taken it already, you should take it now, or you should look out for one of those census enumerators that are walking around your neighborhood, or that may be knocking on your door, and you're wondering, who's that cat that's knocking on the door? They may look familiar. They may be a neighbor, someone in the neighborhood who suddenly is on the door, and they've got to have that lanyard around their neck. They got to have some identification. Please take that. Please look out for those census enumerators if you haven't taken that census yet, or take the census. Go online to mycensus2020.gov or census.gov and find out. Just take that census online. Do that as soon as possible. That is as consequential as voting, because you're talking about nearly $1 trillion at stake, or determining how $1 trillion, how up to $1 trillion in federal money gets dispersed or distributed to various communities. So we're going to talk more about that that 2020 census with the Urban Institute's Rob Santos. And he's like the national expert, by the way. We have him here on Reality Check. He is like one of the premier national experts on the census. And also, and more specifically, Rob Santos is the one, he's the chief methodologist at the Urban Institute. He's the one who's been highlighting all these massive undercounts of black people, of brown people, that especially took place in the 2010 census. So, you know, the public conversation around the census has become a lot more enlightened to these undercounts because of the work that Rob Santos over at the Urban Institute has been doing. Cameron Whitten is joining us too later on in the noon hour. I promise that. Cameron Whitten, founder of the Black Resilience Fund, which has launched in Portland and is helping Black Portlanders. They've raised about $1.5 million, a fund. It is a rapid response economic relief fund for black people in Portland. You just cutting checks to black folks who need it, who are going hungry, need to get their rent paid or whatever. He's just doing the work. You know, he was just like, you know what, we got to do something. No red tape, no bureaucracy, no beating around the bush. He just set up blackresilienceFund.com. So we reached out to Cameron Whitten out in Portland. He's going to come on here on Reality Check and talk about what that Black Resilience Fund is all about, how they did it, why he did it, etc. Okay, the phone lines are open, 215-634-8065. I want to get reactions from folks of day one of the Democratic National Convention. What did you think? Did you watch it, first of all? I'll admit to you, I watched round one of the NBA Eastern playoffs, and I watched the Sixers meltdown last night against the Boston Celtics, and then I watched the Democratic National Convention like shortly thereafter. So, but did you watch day one of the Democratic National Convention? What did you think of it? What did you think of speeches from Bernie Sanders to Michelle Obama? Bernie Sanders' speech was strong. I know you're probably like, what? Ellison actually said something nice about Bernie Sanders. Yes, Bernie Sanders gave a very strong and convincing speech. I have to say that. I mean, I know that the headline of the night was Michelle Obama, which she gave a beautiful speech. But Bernie Sanders' speech was one, it was like, for me, it was the strongest, most solid Bernie Sanders speech I've ever heard. So, and I've seen quite a few of them. And so he struck it. But was it convincing? Was it convincing for you? Was Michelle Obama's speech all that strong? And was it convincing for you? I like to give people's reactions and thoughts to day one of the Democratic National Convention. Let me go to Madeline, Ms. Madeline out of Overbrook, who's calling in for a reality check. Ms. Madeline?
Thank you for taking my call.
Yes, ma'am.
Listen, let me tell you. It was awesome. But, well, let me tell you this, number one. I've been watching conventions since 1963.
Wow.
Now, the last 10 years, I haven't bothered watching Republican conventions. And I kind of now wish, well, when Trump got in, I kind of wish I had where I missed the wrath of the American Republicans. But it, and then please don't cut me off, because I need to get to Michelle all the way up. I thought everybody was good. But there must have been a rant, they think that we're going somewhere and that they needed to take it away from us, and that's why we had Trump. And I missed that. I didn't see that convention. And so anybody that did, my number's kind of public. You can get it if you want to talk to me about it, because I'd like to know. But in the meantime, this is the first time, of course, it was a virtual thing. And I thought it was outstanding. Everything but the music. Now, the music didn't hit it, but everything else, it appeared to me, was well planned and executed. The most outstanding things were the people from the Republican Party who had the nerve to come forward and tell the truth, so help me God. When the brother talked about the group is supposed to help you when the storms and the tornadoes, et cetera, come and do the work, how they did not do their job. He laid it right out there for you to see. The governor coming up like that, that family has been Republican since Hector was a pup. And it was just awesome. was very good.
You were
Very
saying the
good,
Republican?
very good.
Oh, John Kasich, Ms. Madeline? John Kasich,
Right,
you
John
liked his
Kasich.
speech?
I'm not going to try to call the name. And I don't need to waste, because, well, you know.
You
you don't know
liked
yet.
it. You didn't like his speech. You didn't like John Kasich.
When you get 87, you can say, I know what Miss Madeline was talking about. But in the meantime.
Oh, no, Ms. Madeline, did you like John Kasich's speech or not? You didn't like his speech?
I did.
Oh, you did?
Yes,
Oh,
I
wow.
did.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Every Republican said why he was going to be voting for Biden. I loved their speech. And whoever put that piece together and the people came and bought it, I thought it was outstanding.
Okay.
Absolutely outstanding. I have loved it. Now, I'm a delegate, so I'm sitting home getting ready to do my workshops at 11 o'clock.
Okay.
And, but Michelle, my God, thank you, Lord Jesus, for giving us that woman. One who did. Did she do Harvard and Yale?
Princeton. She did Princeton.
Princeton and Yale. Princeton and Harvard. Whatever. Whatever. Absolutely outstanding and to the point. And then she fed it back to him the way he's been giving us these snide,
That's true.
kind of answers. Like
Ms. Madeline, I appreciate you. I do. And I know you got a lot of work ahead of you, and we got to take some calls here. I really appreciate those thoughts and appreciate the fact that you're busy with the convention. You're doing your delegate thing. So thank you for that insight, too. I got to let you go because I can make room because we got a lot of other calls we got to take on. So thank you, Ms. Madeline out of Overbrook. Let me go to AC out of West Philly, who's calling in for a reality check. AC, what's good?
Doing good. How you doing, Charles? I was the one that touched me the most, and I didn't think it would, was Clyburn, Representative Clyburn from South Carolina.
Yeah.
Because he really there's been too much talk about this purity test, and he gave the facts, simply the facts, that 80% of our people who are landed on these shores came through South Carolina. And I can trace my history from Cameroon to the shores of South Carolina to that slave market in Charleston, where my first relative in this country was sold for $300 on July the 1st. And I really felt that. And that's what people are talking about. Everybody can tell their story, Barack, Kamala Harris can tell their story. But if it wasn't for the story of the descendants of African-American slaves, they would have no story. So nothing wrong with telling our story, and that's no hate or anything. That's no purity test. It's just stating the facts. If it wasn't for our people, and we should pay high respect to them, that came to these shores, people wouldn't have came from India, Jamaica, Brazil, and everything, because it would be no reason to come to America. We made it the land of opportunities, and I appreciate him giving high respect to our ancestors. One other thing quick, Brother Charles.
That's right.
I hope that some clergy would assemble and go down and pray and witness what may happen at Ridge Avenue and at 20th in the Parkway. We need some people to go down who are in the clergy or in religion or to pray and to watch over that situation, because I'm praying that nothing happens there with the eviction.
Yeah, we do need that. We do need that. I mean, to do a mass eviction like that during a week like this, there's a whole lot of thoughts I have with respect to that, but I don't want to take away from the callers right now. I want to get people's thoughts on reaction to the Democratic National Convention. Yeah, thoughts on that too. There's a mass conviction being planned as we speak in Philadelphia, but let me go to that. So would love to give the folks, I appreciate you, AC, for mentioning that and calling that out. Also, AC, just note the homicides 31% today, above where they were this time last year. So it has not gone below 30% above where it was the same time last year for a while now. So Philly still has that violence issue. We need to touch on that. Tyrone out of North Philly is calling in for a reality check. Tyrone?
Hey, peace and blessings, Brother Charles.
Peace.
How are you today, my good brother?
Hey, how you doing? All right.
Hey, man, look, much love and respect to my WRD family. Hey, Brother Charles, I got to say this, Coach. History is being made this evening, brother. But I want to answer your question. And first of all, I want to give a lot of love and respect to my elder queen, you know, Madeline. Madeline Dunn has been one of our true warriors. And, you know, I don't know what her age is, but I know for at least 60 of them years, I know of her being one of those folks that's been a part of making, you know, things right in this city. So to get to answer your question and get to my point, I think Michelle Obama hit it on the nail when she said, we gave a know-nothing political nothing person because he's never been in politics, a self-serving individual because everything he do for self, a person that cares for nothing else but self, an opportunity to be the president, and you see where we are today. So she nailed that, and I think in terms of where we are today, she was right on point. But, brother, history is being made this evening because Brother Malcolm Kenyatta, freshman, the 181st legislative Pennsylvania legislative district, is going to be one of the keynotes in this evening. And that brother, his office is in Sullivan Plaza. And for folks who don't know what Sullivan Plaza is, it's Progress Plaza. His family, his dad, Kenyatta, an elder spokesman, someone who has done more than a lot of our elected officials. He has done more for this city in North Philadelphia. And he's a block away from one of our great literary person, Charles Fuller, who lived in Yorktown. And also Dr. Martin Luther King came to Yorktown. So I don't know what he's going to say tonight, but one thing I can say, he got a history behind him that whatever he say, I know it's going to be God sent because that's who's behind him. And we can't forget about the 1036 plan that Reverend Sullivan put in place and the Sullivan Trust that's right now housing all those organizations in the 1400 block North Broad Street. So this brother is going to not only represent the millennials, but he's going to be representing a history that is second to none. So thank you, my brother, for allowing me to share that.
All right. No, I appreciate you, Mr. Tyrone. I think, you know, other folks, I know State Representative Kenyatta, he might be listening in, so he appreciates that as well. Let me take a break. Phone lines are open, 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900. Phone lines are open this entire hour of the Tuesday edition of Reality Check. It is the post-DNC Day 1 edition of Reality Check, #word on politics. Maurice out of Southwest, just stand by for just one moment. And also phone lines are open for other folks who want to call in and give us their perspective, give us their views on what they think about or what their reaction to last night's day one, last night's first day of Democratic National Convention keynote speeches. What did you think? What did you think of that whole presentation? Also, you can leave comments, questions at facebook.com/4word. Also, just want to give you an update as well on that situation unfolding at the encampment at Ridge Avenue or the Parkway. So I want to give you a quick update on that, but let's take a break and we'll be right back here on Reality Check.
Weather and traffic to keep you informed for your drive home in the happy hour with Sincerely Sarita, Monday through Thursday 4 till 7 p.m. right here on Word Radio 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
Pico has many ways to help you lower your energy usage and save money at home. Here's one. Have an old working fridge or freezer in your garage or basement? Pico will pick it up, dispose of it responsibly, and give you a $75 rebate. That's right, $75. Plus, you can save as much as $150 a year on your energy bill by getting rid of it. Just schedule your pickup at pico.com/recycling or call 1-888-5-PICO-SAVE today. Be sure your fridge or freezer is plugged in and working at time of pickup.
WordRadio.com. Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on Word Radio and WordRadio.com.
All right, welcome back to Reality Check 96.1 FM, 900 AM, wordradio.com, Word TV, Word app. Don't forget, join us this Thursday. We got the virtual Democratic National Convention. We also got our virtual annual Founders Day celebration. That's our annual exercise where we celebrate everything about WURD, its mission, its legacy, but also the life and times of Dr. Walter P. Lomax Jr., the Philly-born physician, entrepreneur, philanthropist, and founder of WURD Radio. We're going to be devoting the entire day from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. To special Founders Day programming. There'll be panels on doctors fighting for access and equity, the green economy. We're going to have an EcoWord panel, also economic empowerment through entrepreneurship. We'll also be celebrating the 100th anniversary of the women's right to vote with Black women elected officials, and also throughout the entire day, reflections from Dr. Lomax's family and friends. That's happening throughout the entire day. We're also going to be reintroducing, rebooting our very own exclusive WURD Livelihood Initiative that's designed to connect Black Philadelphians to jobs, career readiness information, entrepreneurship opportunities, and financial literacy. So you can listen all day on 96.1 FM, 900 AM, of course, wordradio.com, or through the Word app, which you should download. If you haven't downloaded it already, can go to your Google Play Store, go to your Apple Store, download that Word app so you can listen in to Founders Day, take it wherever you go. And you can watch the panels through Word TV by going to facebook.com/forward or via the Word website. There's also a special Founders Day discount for Forward membership. Join or renew on Founders Day for the discounted price of $80. The discounted price of $80. The regular membership is $90, as you know, for those Forward members out there who already know, but you can get a discounted Founders Day price of $80 for your Forward membership. So go to wordradio.com for the full lineup and to register for Founders Day so you are eligible to win prizes and special giveaways throughout the day. So that's Founders Day coming up this Thursday from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. That's happening all day. Also, I have a couple of folks asking me about this T-shirt. Go to thebenote.com. And you can actually you can get that off the benote.com store. So it's a B Note created shirt. These are the years, the real good years of Reconstruction after the Civil War. So as you see that, so a couple of folks were asking me about that. They were saying, I love that T-shirt. So that's where you can get it. Go to the benote.com or check out. You can find a link when you read the latest B Note, which is the companion magazine to Reality Check on WURD, How to Increase Black Productivity and Racial Equity. That's by our regular contributor, Mike Green, who's regular contributor here on WURD. You can find out, you can just link to the store to find out how you can get the same shirt and you can wear it. And then people ask you about, hey, what are those years? What does that mean? And you can get into, especially if you know the history, get into the history of Reconstruction after the Civil War. 215-634-8. So thank you for that. Thank you for folks for asking. 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900. Phone lines are open 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Let me go to Maurice out of Southwest, who's calling in for Reality Check. Maurice?
Yeah, how you doing, Charles?
Hey, what's happening? All right.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, well, look, I'm telling you, I'm a political diabetic on this stuff right here. I already know what I got to do. I don't need to watch the convention for the icing on the cake. I don't need that. If you don't know what time it is by now, you're the walking dead. You know what I mean? If you need to be inspired by a convention, then you don't need to be on this planet. You know, I'm sick of these people calling up like, oh, they've been awoken by a convention. If you don't know what's going on, then this election ain't going to help you no matter how it go, because you're ignorant to the world. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is about 8 people got shot this weekend. Two or three died, and there's still nothing done. You know, we worrying about the far side when we need to look on the inside right now. They had that little thing last week when they was in City Hall. It was a joke, man. You had a bunch of criminals that used to be public servants up there trying to get people motivated to stop the violence. You need to talk to the young people that's doing the killing and the shooting. And also, you got to offer them something. You just can't say, put your guns down, everything's supposed to be okay. If they don't see no future, they don't see no jobs, they don't see any of that. And the city, our city elected officials are not offering them anything. Not a thing. They just tell them, stop shooting. No plan, no nothing. So what I'm saying is, come on. You know what? You know what got me? That really made me motivated me for this call. You heard of Benny Siegel, right?
Mm-hmm.
The rapper.
I know. Yeah, I know Benny
He
Siegel.
was going around knocking on doors, telling people to stop the violence. That's just like saying having Trump running a civil rights meeting. I was like, come on, man. How is that sending a proper message out? When you got somebody that commits nothing but crimes that couldn't even see his record grade, that's the guy that's going to motivate young people from stop shooting and killing.
Right.
You know, come on. If we're going to be about it, let's be about it. You know, I'm out here in the streets in the southwest of Badlands every day. Nobody's wearing a mask. Nobody's thinking about their future because the city is not offering them nothing. Nothing.
Yeah, you got to put something on the table. Yeah, I mean, it's getting to be too. You absolutely make a good point there, Maurice. Because I'll let you finish because you're making a real salient point, a cogent point for not just me, but I know a lot of other people out there. We can't be having these hearings in City Hall ad nauseum, identifying the problem. Everyone knows what the problem is. We see the headlines, particularly for those of us who listen to WURD all day. Are well-read, are keeping track of what's happening in their city, what's happening in their local politics, local policy developments, et cetera. So we already know what time it is. We already know what the problem is. But we've got to stop like these conversations, these whether they're virtual or not, or they're their hearings on, oh, this is the problem. There have to be announcements about, okay, well, this is what we've come up with. This is what, to your point, Maurice, this is what we're putting on the table right now. These are the tangibles. These are the resources, the materials. These are the X amount of dollars that we're putting into this initiative, into that program, into people's pockets to keep folks out there from being in such a state of both disenchantment and also hopelessness that some folks out there, not all folks and not the majority of folks, but some folks out there resorting to violence. This is what we're putting on the table to keep some folks out there, to revitalize these neighborhoods. Until then, it's just going to be conversation. It's really just going to be talk, to your point, Maurice. You're absolutely right. And so it is frustrating. It's because it just feels like these conversations are in an endless loop. Go ahead, Maurice, finish up.
Well, listen, I told you, I used to be a guard up at Graterford Prison. You know what keep prisoners from rioting? They offer them guys, they have jobs in jail. People don't realize that. Half the population is working during the day. They don't understand that. Those guys, they may be menial jobs, but they got jobs and they also make clothing and all that stuff in prison. That's what keep their minds not being idle or thinking of crazy things to do because they got work to do. That's what we need. The city need to be offering some of these youth out here. I don't care if you're black, white, whatever. Give them something to do.
Give them something to do.
The city sure enough needs it. All you got to do is look at the streets, the trash, and everything else. So I'm going to close with this, Charles.
Get the young people to clean that trash up, to help clean that trash up, or to organize it, to do something. I mean, I don't get it. I mean, it's a different kind of Philadelphia than the one, well, at least the street I grew up in. But go ahead, finish up, Maurice.
I'm just saying, you can't have criminals up there on the microphone telling people to act right. You know what I mean? You can't have former state reps that got caught up in the game. You can't have people that been indicted up there running the program. How does that look? That's just like saying, hey, look, we want you to stop crime, but watch Power every night and learn from that and take notes. You can't do that. You got to have people that's actually living a straight and narrow life that did something with themselves and don't get in trouble. You can't have your state reps and city officials that got pending crime on them. I'm not saying they're guilty, but pending crime on them up there leading the march. It don't work that way. All right? So let's get it together and act like we got some common sense. That's all I'm.
All right. Thanks so much, Maurice. I appreciate you. Let me go to Harvey, Mr. Harvey out of Milledgeville, Georgia, who's calling it out of battleground state of Georgia now. Georgia becoming competitive, or at least is viewed as competitive in this upcoming presidential election. Also got 2 Senate races down there, too. Mr. Harvey out of Milledgeville calling in for a reality check. How are you doing,
Hey,
sir?
Charles. I'm doing good, man. Don't believe the hype. It's still politicized down here, even in Georgia, man. The brother Maurice just stole my thunder, what I want to talk about, but I'll say a few things. For those people, I didn't watch that charade, or whatever you want to call it, that dress rehearsal last night, and I won't watch it no more anyway. I've been watching it for over 50 years and had nothing changed for us. So putting that aside, your show is the reality check, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Well, I think maybe go down there where you were speaking about those people camped out facing eviction, and ask how many of them watched that whatever you want to call it, and see what they say. My thing is reparation. I think all people with the power of the politicians, the people with the mic, should start pushing that. My people need a check, man. We don't need all that other BS.
So, Mr. Harvey, let me ask you: how do you think you will get reparations if what sort of outcome would you need in this election to get to reparations?
Masses of the people, and it's coming to
what does that mean, though? That's all due respect to Mr. Harvey.
To the street.
Reparations is a reparations. I've been telling people this is, and when I say this, it's not at all that I'm against reparations. It's just people need to be realistic about the pathway to reparations. Reparations is a policy mandate. It is something that is developed that has to be shaped in order for it to take fruit, in order to move the government to invest those kinds of dollars in a specific community or set of communities. That is a policy shift. That is a policy change. So which election outcome do you think will get you to reparations?
From what I'm seeing now, none of them. None of them.
So why ask for reparations then? If you don't have any realistic political or public policy pathway towards it.
That's what I'm saying, Charles. Quit begging for it and take it.
How are you going to take reparations? What does that mean by taking it?
Taking it. Take those people that's in place that don't speak about it and take them out of there.
So, okay, well, all right. Well, how is that done? And then once you take those people, once you unseat those people, and I don't know what take it means. There's a bunch of people listening in right now. They're like, what does that mean? What specifically, what is that detailed plan?
You don't know what that means?
What you talking about? Just have people en masse rob banks?
Well,
rob the Federal Reserve? Just people go down to Constitution Avenue in D.C. and just rob the Federal Reserve? Okay, hey, let's rob Fort Knox. Was that what that means?
Did it?
I mean, I don't understand what that means, Mr. Harvey.
The first people here, the first white settlers here, they did it. So why you think?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's right. Now, I want to be careful here. I was just joking just a moment ago, but I'm being facetious. But I'm being facetious here. But I'm just saying, like, you're not making any sense as far as like how to. That's a policy mandate. That is something where you have to win an election and then go to the next stage.
No. We got to get away from that.
That is how you do it. That's how you realistically do it. All right.
That election thing don't benefit us,
that's what that is. That's what that is. Because otherwise, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen until people who are the most closely aligned to what you're feeling and what you want and your demands win an election. That's the full stop. I mean, let's just be realistic about that. I mean, it's no other way to get reparations. And it's a lot of black folks who are demanding reparations are walking around here acting like we 51% of the population. We're last I checked about 15% of the population. So we got to be smart about this. And you got to win an election and then take the next step towards, okay, now we won this election. So we need you now to start crafting legislation, crafting a bill to get people just need to be realistic about the pathway, the direction, like the steps that you need to take to get to reparations. I have to let you go, Mr. Harvey. Let me go to and I was joking earlier, obviously, by the way, about taking reparations. That was just me being facetious, but it is a serious topic. It is something definitely we need to continue to talk about. I don't want to dismiss the conversation. I'm not trying to dismiss Mr. Harvey, but be realistic about how to get to that point. And we can help you get there. We can guide you there. We'll bring the experts on, tell you how, okay, especially if this election is won, okay, next step is reparations. Tahir out of Ohio, calling in for a reality check. Tahir.
Hey, good morning, Charles. How are you, sir?
Hey, good morning. All right.
So I didn't watch the convention. And I'm not sure if I'm going to go back and look at some things because, what I pointed out again yesterday was I personally think that it should be less celebrity, focused. And when I say I didn't watch, I watched episodes.
So here, I'm sorry, I can't hear you too good. I think you're making a good point, but are you on like Bluetooth earphones or something? Because you sound muffled.
Can you hear me better?
Yeah, that's better.
Can you hear me better?
Yes, sir. That's better.
So
go ahead.
I would really like to see again a focus on voting and the importance why. A lot of the other stuff, and I hope the Congressional Black Caucus really leads in that area. All the other stuff is, it's just a challenge for me. I think that the process in terms of what we need to do is it's a straight arrow. It's not a whole lot of other stuff on the table. We've got to move the current president out. Period. End of story. All the other stuff, when he's out of there, then fine. Lay your agenda out. You've been talking about it for several months now. We get all that. But I'm disappointed, and I just hope that you comment on it in terms of your expertise, because I, for one, am a person that values how you view things. I think it has to be a focus on getting folks out to vote, getting them inspired to vote, and moving the current president out. And that's what that convention, in my opinion, should be all about. So thanks, Charles. I'll wait to hear your response.
Yeah, no, that's I think you make a good point there. And let me take a break, and then I'll take another call or two. I'll give you my thought on this real quick. 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Let's take a break, and we'll be right back.
Recovery starts with a call. Pennsylvania's Substance Use Disorder Hotline is staffed by real people who are trained to help. They're here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They'll get you or your loved one into treatment regardless of your access to insurance. If you or someone you know is suffering from addiction, call 1-800-662-HELP. Recovery starts with a call.
Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
Always Best Care is a great place to work. Flexibility,
leadership, purpose,
great benefits.
There's never a dull moment.
Diversity, inclusion, compasión.
We love our jobs. If you're looking for a great place to work, you can join our compassionate Team Green. You can apply online at teamgreenabc.com or call 267-909-9248.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Be heard. Want another way to join the conversation? Follow us on social media using the hashtag onWURD. Be heard. Stay connected to Word Radio.
Independent Black Media.
Enterprise Exterminators, located 4943 Wayne Avenue, specializing in lantern flies, termites, bed bugs, fleas, mice, and roaches. Do-it-yourself kits are available. Call now, 215-849-7070.
This is WURD Breaking News.
All right, we've got 3 different breaking stories from local to national that are happening right now. First, that situation with locally. Let's start locally with that situation of the encampment, the homeless encampment on Ridge Avenue. City Hall or Philadelphia officials have indicated that they will not, I repeat, Philadelphia officials stating that they will not forcibly remove people from the encampments this morning. What they will try to do is find them housing and also gently sort of encourage them to leave on their own. And so there was a city spokesperson who is quoted here in the Philadelphia Inquirer saying, "Our focus at this point remains on securing services for those individuals at the camp, and today those outreach efforts continue." End quote. Open quote, "We strongly believe that those in the camp will voluntarily decamp and avail themselves of the services being offered. The city will make every effort to connect encampment residents to services, store their belongings, and provide transportation to other housing, he said. All of this, quote, we are hopeful that no one on site will refuse to leave. So the city is not is deciding that it will not forcibly remove those at that encampment. It's actually a good decision because that's the last thing. I mean, well, just in terms of the political optics, that wouldn't play out well at all, especially the week of the Democratic National Convention, and then cameras on various cable networks suddenly panning to Philadelphia and watching Philadelphia police forcibly remove people, particularly at a time like this with a pandemic and an economy in meltdown. Philadelphia police forces or folks removing people from an encampment who've been forced into circumstances that are beyond their control. So that was a smart move. At least it was tactical. It's short-lived. It was a smart move at least for the moment by City Hall. Also on Capitol Hill, another announcement. Donald Trump's 2016 presidential campaign chairman Paul Manafort worked closely with a Russian intelligence officer who may have been involved in the hack and release of Democratic emails during the 2016 election. That is the conclusion from the Senate Intelligence Committee in their bipartisan report that was just released on Capitol Hill this hour. It is described as the furthest that U.S. officials have gone in describing Konstantin Kilimnik, a longtime Manafort associate, who now is being described as, in this bipartisan Republican-Democrat report, as an agent of the Russian government. The disclosure was part of the committee's fifth and final installment of its report on the Kremlin's interference in the 2016 presidential election. And let's hear that resounding duh. And coming out of the White House, President Trump is offering to pardon women's suffrage activist Susan B. Anthony. So Donald Trump going to give a posthumous pardon to Susan B. Anthony, who was convicted in the late 19th century. I forget the exact year that she was convicted, but for her involvement in the women's suffrage movement and fighting for securing the right to vote for women. But he announced that he will be officially pardoning Susan B. Anthony. So of course we predicted Donald Trump would do something the morning of or the day after the first day of the Democratic National Convention, particularly after that speech by Michelle Obama. Well, speeches by rather powerful speeches by Bernie Sanders, Senator Bernie Sanders, and also Michelle Obama as well. So Donald Trump has to figure out a way to upstage that. Let me go to the phone lines, 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900. Let's go to George out of Center City calling in for a reality check.
And I'm glad to talk to you today, Charles. Charles, don't put your money on them people not being moved. It means that the city going to gather up all that trash, all that it's horrible out there. It's just horrible. That parkway is ridiculous. And you know something? Usually I give these two council people here a pass because they're just stupid. Kendra Brooks wants everybody to have free. That's her favorite word. The city should pay for everybody's thing. They should pay for their rent, electric, gas. In other words, you're supposed to live for free. And Gautier, I'm really surprised at her because she needs to take care of her district. You know, I mean, she was given a gold mine for black people, and she gave it all to white folks. She's the second dumbest council person. I mean, literally dumb. She's so dumb that she writes a letter in the councilman president's district. She ain't got nothing to do with that district. That's the golden rule. Stay in your district. Stay in your lane. Stay all up in Daryl's district. Daryl ain't complaining about it, so why should you? He probably working something out. This is something else that's very dangerous, Charles. People who work their behind off, do everything right, and they get $1 over the limit, they can't get no housing, they can't get no subsidies, they can't get nothing. And these people out here do drugs, do everything, live bad, do wrong things for 15, 20 years. Then all of a sudden, they want to decide, oh, I don't want to be homeless no more. I want the city to give me a subsidized house, meaning that you don't pay no electric, you don't pay no gas, you pay minimum, you pay, what, $300 a month? I mean, what kind of foolishness is that, Charles? I mean, right is right, wrong is wrong. This city, we reward bad behavior. and that's wrong. People who work their behind off and
Yeah,
they follow
but I mean, I think that, but where are people going to find? I mean, there's a issue where the economy's in a meltdown right now, George. So I mean, there are some folks out there that are like at their wits' end. They're desperate. Where are they going to find a job to be able to do that, to pay those kinds of bills?
Charles, stop the pity party. That's the problem.
It's not a pity party. I'm just saying that that's the number. That's where the numbers stand right now. It's not a pity party. It's just that, like, I agree with you that people don't want to be in that position, George.
Yes,
The vast majority of people don't want to be in that position.
Charles,
maybe there's some people, there's some outliers there who would love to just like feed off the government trope, but vast majority of people, they want to get a job. That's what the data show. And so I'm saying, where are the jobs at? Where are the jobs at that for them to go ahead and be plugged into so they can make a living, so they can pay those bills on their own, so they can find that housing on their own?
Charles, one thing I can say, you don't never let nobody get in. You clarify your part of your thought to make it sound real good, but it's wrong. That's dead wrong. Those people on that parkway are homeless because they want to be homeless, okay? Don't sit there and act like
what survey? But wait a second, George. Go ahead. I just don't understand how people want to be homeless.
You don't understand it because you don't see it. Those people, I'm not saying all homeless people. I'm saying those specifically, they're hustling the system, okay? They know where to get they know where to get free medical. They get free dental. They get more stuff than you could ever imagine. So, Charles, until you be down there with them and see how it operates, you can't speak on it. People like Kendra Brooks and Gautier, those council people who encourages that foolishness because it sounds good. It's wrong. You can't sit there and enable those people. Don't tell me about jobs because each and every one of those people got a certificate. When they need to go to work and get some money, they do it. Okay? They work when they want to work. Because you know why?
So you're saying the city's financial position, its economic state right now is such that everyone in the city of Philadelphia can get a job.
But it's not the city's responsibility to make sure that you get a job.
But wait, it's not about the city. The city aside, I'm just asking about the economy of Philadelphia, businesses in Philadelphia. The economy is such right now in the city of Philadelphia that every resident in the city of Philadelphia can get a job.
Okay, the people who can't get a job, I feel for them. But don't sit there and tell me about some people who went down there and tried to hustle Kenny. I bet you this.
Yeah.
The people who negotiated the deal for those on the Parkway and Ridge Avenue, I bet you they got housing. You know what the rule is, and you can't get around it, is that you got to go into a shelter. They don't want to go in a shelter.
Got it. I hear you. There's some people, who are. I got to let you go, George. I got it because I got to take some other calls. But no, I hear some points that you're making in there. I just I think that there's some arguments there. I think that had to be unpacked a little bit more. But let me go to Rebecca out of Springfield, who's calling in for a reality check. Rebecca.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
What's happening? Good morning.
Fine. I'm sorry I had been holding on for a while because I wanted to address Maurice and Mr. Harvey. First of all, everybody black should have watched the Democratic convention. It was awesome. It was so many really great things that was done there. And like the other person said after that, voting is what we need to be thinking about and getting Trump out. Make sure we vote. Make sure everybody votes. But Maurice and Mr. Harvey, I don't know how old they are. I'm 77 years old. I've been out here, and I know how it is. And we need to be more supportive of our own people instead of always have to be so negative. Maurice is negative all the time, and I don't know who this Mr. Harvey is, but he seemed like he's right along with him. And they need to be ashamed of themselves. I'm an old lady, and I know what it's about, and they ought to know. Maybe they don't know. That's why I said I don't know how old they are. But if they live long enough, and they should have lived long enough to know better, they should have supported the Democratic convention. It was awesome, outstanding. We should be very proud of ourselves. Have a great day.
All right. Thanks so much. Appreciate you, Ms. Rebecca. Appreciate everyone calling in, too. Appreciate you as well, George. We'll get to your issue. I think you've raised some interesting issues. We need to like have a segment on that. Derek out of North Philly calling in for a reality check. Derek?
Good morning, Charles. Love, peace, blessings, and prosperity.
What's happening? All right.
Everything is just to maintain the goodness, Charles. I agree with the last caller. I mean, she was right on for me. It's not. This is not the good time to look at the shortcomings of us ourselves, but now is the time that we must unify. We're in the system that the way it works works through a voting system, and as disfranchised as we can become because of so many years of oppression. But I'm just under the mindset that our ancestors knew that we would be up against challenges that we are today, but they still stood for the importance. They still risked their lives. And so if anybody's going to go to an extreme like that for something that they may not fully get the benefit, then that's our job to do today, too, to help the young ones to realize, yeah, there's a lot of things that's not right. There's a lot of people hustling the system, but everybody's not hustling the system. Some people are there because they need the help. So, we got to show in these particular critical times, it's time for people, Republicans and Democrats, really to show some humanitarianism. Because it just seems like people are not on point.
Yeah.
That there are many people that are suffering, and let's stop the suffering and not point the fingers.
Yeah. Let's focus on that too. Let's focus on. So I don't want, I appreciate folks' perspective and their opinions too, but I also want to make sure that we're encouraging. And thanks for those comments, Derek. But I also want to make sure we're encouraging a conversation that looks towards a solution. I don't want the callers to get into. I know there's a lot of like emotional comments that are being made here, especially this morning. But let's make sure that we try to encourage some civil and constructive conversation as well. Let me go to Cliff out of Connecticut, who's calling in for a reality check. Cliff?
And thanks for taking my call. I'll get right to the point. First of all, I want to say that I now will vote for Joe Biden simply and only because he had selected, he was forced to select a black woman, Kamala Harris. I now will cast my vote. However, here's the issue. Even with the popular vote, here we go again. If we win, I'm saying we, Democratic the voters, even if we win through popular vote, we will still have to face the Electoral College. CNN this past weekend did a whole segment on the Electoral College and how the electors did not represent the interests of the voters. We had that problem. So now, let me ask you, put it back to you, Charles. If, in fact, we lose again through the Electoral College, would that now be an issue that we should be addressing?
I think that, one thing about the Electoral College, it's not going anywhere anytime soon. So now folks are going to have to learn how to game it. Like the Electoral College states, particularly with high amounts of electoral votes, are places where there are high concentrations of eligible black voters, high concentrations of black residents. So this whole conversation about abolish the Electoral College is not factoring in the very powerful presence of black voters in those key Electoral College battleground states. So like black voters are in a position right now where they could be gaming the Electoral College, but we're so focused on abolishing it and having this conversation right now, which is not realistic right now. No one's going to be abolishing the Electoral College. It's like we shouldn't even be having that conversation right now. Maybe we have the conversation after the election, whether Biden wins it or not. I'm definitely for having that conversation, seeing where it goes. But for now, and I understand the history behind the Electoral College and why it was created. But right now, black folks are in a position, and we've unpacked this, we've done the calculations, the math on this. Black folks are in a position where, or black voters, black folks who are eligible and who are going to vote, but especially if you get even more eligible black voters in that crowd, you can command the Electoral College. Like, people don't understand that. Cliff, go ahead, finish up.
Yeah. So if in fact this ticket, this Biden-Kamala Harris ticket, gets more popular votes than Hillary Clinton in 2016, and still lose, you still won't have a problem. You would say that more black voters didn't come out if that happened.
We have to see. I'm not going to predict what the exit polling is going to be. Yeah, I can't. I mean, neither can you, Cliff. I mean, I think it's a good question. I just said that whatever the outcome is come November, I'm open to reexamining And then, you know, having that conversation about like, hey, maybe we need to get rid of the electoral college. Yeah, absolutely. I'm open to that conversation. I don't know what those exit polling, I can tell you what some polling data is looking like right now as far as black voters. I saw a YouGov poll yesterday, and go to the BE note. I know there was a listener on the Facebook live stream. He said he went to B note. No, it's thebnote.com. So I should have clarified that. The thebenote.com. Go to there, and I put out those numbers. But I saw 19% of black voters or prospective black voters in that YouGov poll saying that they're not going to vote. So that's a problem. That's a real problem, and that's not just a problem for Democrats. That's a problem for the black electorate. And so, but Cliff, no, it's some good questions. They're good questions that you raised. We're definitely going to address them. I got to let you go because I want to break. And when we come back on the other side, Mike Green, economic strategist, is coming on. And phone lines do remain open at 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Let me take a break, and we'll be right back.
Get your money straight. Get my money right. With Solomon Jones and Akbar Hassan. Fridays on Wake Up with Word. 7 a.m. till 10 a.m. Hosted by Solomon Jones. Exclusively on Word Radio. 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Streaming live on wordradio.com and on the Word Radio app. Dietz & Watson has been making premium meats and artisan cheeses for over 80 years. And when it comes to stacking sandwiches and party platters, they've got something for everyone in the family, like maple honey turkey breast, American cheese, buffalo chicken, and more. So get to your local deli and taste 4 generations of family recipes. With Dietz & Watson on the table, you'll have everyone coming back for seconds and thirds. Dietz & Watson, it's a family thing since 1939.
Part-time job, full-time hustle, all-time Shiro to all of us. You nurture, we listen. You teach, we thrive. You lift our spirits, but we've got to lay down the truth. It's time for you, our Shiro, to stretch for the stars. Start saving more for retirement now, so you can feel prepared and live your life to the fullest. Get free tips to help boost your retirement savings now at aceyourretirement.org/Shiro.
A message brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Join us for our annual Founders Day broadcast, a special virtual on-air and online celebration of our founder, Walter P. Lomax Jr., MD. Thursday, August 20th from 6 a.m. till 9 p.m. Enjoy an entire day of celebration as we recognize that independent black media is more important now than ever, with panel discussions that you can watch on Word TV via Facebook Live or listen on 900 AM 96.1 FM through wordradio.com or the Word Radio app, including a conversation with the Lomax family, discussions on black innovation, wealth creation, doctors on the front lines, featuring Dr. Ayla Stanford, self-care strategies during a time of madness, and much more. Plus, updates on our livelihood initiative to connect our community with jobs and career opportunities. And what better way to celebrate independent black media than to ensure that it continues to thrive by starting or renewing your Forward membership at the discounted rate of just $80 exclusively on Founders Day. It's all going down on air and online from 6 a.m. till 9 p.m. Thursday, August 20th. But be sure to register right now at wordradio.com to be eligible for exclusive prizes and giveaways during our Founders Day broadcast. And stay tuned to Word Radio, sponsored by Pico, Comcast, NBC Universal, Brown's Family ShopRite, Dietz & Watson, Canada Dry, Amoroso's, and Hers. This is Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia. Independent black media. Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on Word Radio and wordradio.com.
All right, welcome back to Reality Check 96.1 FM, 900 AM, wordradio.com, Word TV, Word app. We're waiting on Mike Green. Mike Green's supposed to be joining us very shortly, and phone lines are open while we talk with Mike Green, 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check, 215-634-8065, toll free, 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. We do have Mike Green joining us now, economic strategist. Good morning. How are you doing, Mike? Also founder of Scale Up Partners. Scale Up Partners, check that out. Also go to the BE Note, thebnote.com. onWURD.com to check out a blog that he put together entitled How to Increase Black Productivity and Racial Equity. And that's part of this project that he's also involved with the National Institute for Inclusive Competitiveness. He's partnered up with folks out here in Philly, rolling that out nationally. Go to NICUSA.org, NIICUSA.org for more information on that effort. And Mike joins us by phone here on Reality Check. Mike, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, man. How you doing?
I'm hanging in there. So a very busy morning. No, I appreciate you as always. It's always good to have you back on. So I just want to get your reactions, sort of your first reactions, Mike, if you will, to the opening day of the Democratic National Convention this week. I'm sure you're watching that. You're keeping tuned into it, watching the highlights. What did you think of the first major speeches? How did Bernie Sanders go? How did he do? Was it effective and convincing? I thought it was a very strong, solid speech. Also, Michelle Obama's speech, obviously very strong, very convincing on some levels, at least from a political observer's point of view. And then there was the young Latina woman, Kristen Urquines, who lost her father to COVID. Her father was a ardent Trump supporter, and then he lost his life to COVID. That was very emotional and heart-wrenching. What themes do Democrats need to focus on as well? What do you think, Mike?
Well, I did watch it. I watched Bernie. I watched Michelle Obama. I did see the emotional appeal from the young lady whose father was lost to COVID. Here's the way I look at these types of speeches. I listen to what they're saying, and I also listen for what is not said. So let me give you a framework for what Bernie said, a framework for what Michelle Obama said, and then I'm going to tell you what nobody said. And keep in mind that what nobody is saying in the Democratic Party, writ large, is as important as what they are saying. Okay? All right? So we have to be careful when we listen to what they are saying. We also have to be listening what they're not saying. So here's what Bernie Sanders said. Bernie Sanders likes to give you a laundry list of stuff. He says Joe Biden. Okay, so that's the first thing. Joe Biden is going to do all of these things. He's going to raise the minimum wage. He's going to make it easier to join unions, give everybody affordable health care, cut costs of prescription drugs, family paid leave for 12 weeks, universal pre-K, affordable child care, rebuild the infrastructure, climate change. Everybody's going to be on electricity over the next 15 years. I don't know how he's going to do that over 15 years, but that's what he said. He's going to create good-paying jobs. He's going to lower the age for eligibility for Medicare from 65 to 60. He's going to end private prisons and cash bail. He's going to end the school-to-prison pipeline. He's going to end the hate and division. He's going to end dehumanization of immigrants, and he's going to end the tax on women, and he's going to end the coddling of white nationalists and religious bigotry. All that if we just defeat Donald Trump. That's what that's what Joe Biden's going to do. I'm like, okay, all right.
Did you check in with Joe about that? Does Joe know? Right.
Like, Joe's going to be busy. Okay, I got you. So then Michelle comes on, and Michelle's doing her thing. You know, Michelle's a beautiful, accomplished black woman. She represents the pinnacle of what black achievement, black womanhood can be in America. You right? So I mean, she's our icon. I love Michelle Obama. She comes on and she gives a character counts message. And here's what she says. She says, "I'm going to tell you the story of America," and she talks about how the parents sacrifice for the better life for the kids, and who we choose determines whether or not we honor that work. Okay, that's cool. And then she says that she starts to describe the complexity of the presidency and how Donald Trump isn't up to the task, and being president reveals who you are. But she said this, voting also reveals who you are. So voting matters. Okay, cool. Yeah. Then she gives the Obama's record. Then she talks about the state of our nation today. Black Lives Matter being derided by the White House, the lack of empathy, and inability for Trump to value other people's experiences, the moral foundation being set for our kids. We have adults are losing integrity because of our ugly behavior. And she talks about leaders embracing white supremacy and mistreating immigrants. She talks about the character of America on display. And then she says going high is the only thing that works when others go low, because we can't go low, and then everybody's down there. And she talks about love, living and working together across our differences. Truth matters, and Donald Trump's the wrong president. Things can and will get worse, but we need to vote for Joe like our life depends on it. That's her speech. That's her whole speech. Okay? So I'm like, oh, that makes me feel good. I'm looking at Michelle, and, you know, she's my icon, so I'm feeling good. I'm feeling high. She gives me a feel-good speech. Okay? Right. So basically, I have a laundry list of craziness from Bernie Sanders, who tell me that Joe Biden's going to do everything, and Michelle says, "Let me make you feel good. If you vote for Joe Biden, like your life depends on it, because we got to get rid of this crazy fool in the White House." That's right now. That's all I got from the Democrats. I haven't heard what I needed to hear. So you ready for that?
Yeah, what you need to hear. Yeah, that's my other question. I definitely wanted to get your thoughts on that. What you think we should be hearing?
So this is what we should hear. To create an inclusive America, those two words, to create an inclusive America with equitable access to opportunities and pathways to prosperity for all in a multicultural society, we must prioritize the most vulnerable population, and disrupt the cycle of generational poverty with a strategy for generational wealth. That's the opening. I need to hear that you know that we down here in the most vulnerable areas of our society exist, and not that we exist, not that we should be included, but that we should be prioritized, and that the disruption of generational poverty should be with a strategy of generational wealth. Now, here's how this happens. This strategy requires disruption of the 20th century segregationist policies and practices that we inherited, which currently protect white power and supremacy. Somebody's got to say that directly. And then we got to give some data. Here's the data. Today, 80% of all employers are white. 80% of all teachers are white. 80% of all journalists are white. Nearly 80% of the Democratic Party is white. And more than 80% of the Republicans are white. And this white infrastructure of people and policies and practices has no strategy to end segregation in schools and create quality education for the most vulnerable populations. They have no strategy for ending discrimination in housing. They have no strategy for ending discrimination in banking and access to capital for the most vulnerable populations. They have no strategy for home ownership for most vulnerable populations. They have no strategy for business ownership, growth, and job creation by the most vulnerable population. They have no strategy for that, and they have no strategy for developing generational wealth for the most vulnerable population. I have not heard this from the Democratic Party, and I need to hear that. Because if I don't hear that, then I don't know where I fit in this society. I don't whether Joe Biden is in. I know where I fit. Since Trump is in, Trump wants to kill us all. That's fine. His policies are effectively doing exactly that. They are killing people. His policies are stripping families apart, immigrants. His policies are exacerbating the gaps in opportunity, in education, in wealth, in income, in housing, in every aspect of our lives. His policies are exacerbating those gaps and those problems. So I understand where I fit with Trump. I don't. Now, with the Democrats, you give me a laundry list of all kinds of little projects that Joe Biden has no ability to complete. And even if he did, would not address the systemic problems that I talked about, the systemic issues of disrupting generational poverty and in a strategy of generational wealth. Where is that for the most vulnerable populations? I have not heard it yet.
But I wonder, Mike, real quick, a couple of points there. So, I've always been bothered by that emphasis on middle America voters or middle class voters. But then, just from a strategist point of view, they're looking at those polling numbers. They're saying the people who vote versus the people who don't vote. And so you know, there's data suggesting, or there's exit polling suggesting that there are just a lot of folks making under $50,000 a year who aren't turning out for a variety of reasons. Some reasons because they're just completely disenchanted with the process and the system. They don't believe in it, and they don't believe it addresses their needs and concerns. And then for others, it's too hard. It's like, you know, they have to take a day off work, you know, just to stand in line for, and they can't afford that, and their boss is not allowing them to do that. So, you know, we find ourselves in a conundrum there, right? You know, because it's, and hence that I hear what you're saying, and I do agree with quite a bit of it. But then I'm also thinking, well, it's like when you look at those numbers, how do you reconcile that? And then if that's where Joe Biden or where Democrats need to go if they win, how do you make them get there? Because, you know, particularly, I mean, you got to work through those policy channels, those policy you know, those channels that are set up to create policy prescriptions for those problems. How do you make them do that? How do you make them or force them to pursue or push that agenda?
Well, it's interesting, to your point, how do you make them?
Yeah.
We had two chances to make them. We blew both, okay? First of all, the reason people don't show up, the reason our most vulnerable populations don't show up is not because they can't. They've always had these systemic problems. I can't get off work. I don't have anybody to take care of my kids. We've always had these problems. But somehow or another, when we feel like, as Michelle Obama said, vote like you, your life depends on it. When we feel like our life depends on something, we find a way to make it happen. Black and brown folks are the most innovative folks on the planet. So we find a way to do that. And if I'm a Democratic Party and I prioritize these people, not only in speeches, which I should, because they need to hear that. If they don't hear themselves prioritized, then what incentive do they have to go through the sacrifices that they need to make in order to get to the polls and vote? If they don't hear themselves not just mentioned or included in a speech, but prioritize a whole entire speech around them, if they hear that, that excites that base. That excites the younger base as well, the younger people who don't normally show up. So that's one thing. The second thing is, if I got enough money in the bank, I need to find a way to invest in making sure that the hurdles that these people are facing are lowered, so that I find a way to help them get to the polls, because that is that's what it's going to depend on, right? So, one, I have to prioritize their success, and two, I have to prioritize their access. Does that make sense? If I do both of those, then those people hear themselves not only being mentioned in my speech, but being prioritized in my speech. They get excited. Now they're trying to figure out ways to get to the polls, and I'm making it easier for them because I know the other side is making it harder. So I got a strategy. I'm investing in it. I'm playing this game. I'm not leaving it up to them to figure out how they're going to do it. I'm helping them. We are a team. And so just like Trump understands his team has access. His team has ability. His team doesn't need anything other than for him to say the right things that gets them excited. And he's doing that, because all the bad things we're talking about Trump is not the problem. Trump is a symptom of the problem. His people who approve of him after nearly 4 years of a daily delusional and dangerous despotism, these people still approve of Trump in historic high numbers, the Republican Party does. That is unconscionable. That tells you that it's not just Trump, it is those people. And if we don't focus on those people, we will still have state legislatures, we will still have Congress and senators, we will still have people in positions of power in police departments, in mayoral staff, and as leaders at the local, the state, and the federal levels. We need to defeat the entire landscape of white supremacy.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? I keep forgetting to ask you, Mike. And I know I might be switching gears here a little bit because we're focused on the convention, focused on like electoral outcomes and how people are winning these elections, the types of people that are winning these elections, the base for Trump. The census. I don't think we've ever talked about the census and get your thoughts on like what because there's been a lot of talk about I feel like the overemphasis on what's happening with the Postal Service is distracting us from the more important task, the more important, really crucial issue of the census, and the fact that we now have a new deadline that was pushed up, and there's still signs of low participation rates, particularly in our community. What do you think about that? Because the census has been weaponized since its very inception, since the beginning. But how is that going to factor into everything?
Well, you already said it. I mean, Charles, you're very astute. Every 10 years, we're supposed to take this census, and it's
right.
a count of the entire population, not just the citizenry, but the entire population. That's when I filled out the census, it asked me how many people are living in your home, even if they're not related to you. Who
right.
are they? Well, how old are they? And so on and so forth. Right. So I understand the importance of what the census does by getting the entire population, understanding who's here and who's living where. There's money being allocated behind that. So behind the numbers, behind the population numbers, there's money to be provided for subsistence, for education, for housing, for health care, for a lot of different things that affect all of our lives. Now, when we don't count people who do count, again, when we don't count people who do count, then they don't count in the allocation of funds. They don't count in the safety net. They don't count in the care that we should be having for all of our citizens, particularly the most vulnerable. And guess what? That is the people who we are not going to count. We're not going to count the vast majority of the most vulnerable populations. And, even the Christians will say, as Christ said, whatever you do to the least of these people, you'll do also to me. So at the end of the day, we're talking about ensuring that we know who is here so we know who needs what, and so that we can respond to that. Now, we know that the other side does not care. The other side wants to build a wall. The other side wants to prevent vulnerable people from coming here. The other side wants to prevent vulnerable people who are here from accessing resources. That has been a long generational strategy. We know that. What we're not hearing is a strategy on the other side from the Democrats, who are prioritizing winning this battle, and who are letting the most vulnerable people know not only are we thinking about you, but you are our number one priority.
Yeah.
We're not hearing that message. And so you touched on the right point. The census, every 10 years. I mean, if we miss this opportunity, we got a long log.
You make to your point too, Mike, because it's like, I mean, are Democrats going to do something, that's optically revolutionary or dynamic? Like, for example, okay, instead of having like every evening just a string of celebrity and political luminaries giving keynote speeches, let's, for example, I mean, before you came on, a few folks who were talking about the fate of homeless people at this encampment on the Parkway in Philadelphia. So, bring the organizer of that encampment on. I don't know, like, I'm just thinking, like, there's a very grass tops feel to these sorts of affairs, or a grass tops heavy feel to these types of affairs. At the exclusion or at the expense of the grassroots or what's happening kind of on the ground level or the street level, that bothers me, frankly. And
it should bother you.
Particularly for an event like this, like, okay, well, let's do something new and fresh and innovative. Let's really, and I'm not saying like everyone has to be the same woke activist that is lined up or is scheduled to talk at the DNC, but to give a real life authentic, there is definitely what I felt last night. I mean, I like the speeches from folks like Michelle Obama, Bernie Sanders, but I felt that lack of authenticity. That I'm just looking at from a purely messaging and strategic, and an optical strategy kind of perspective. That bothered me.
Well, what you're hearing is all frosting and no cake, or as they say in Texas, where I was raised, all hat and no cattle. At the end of the day, they lack vision. The Democratic Party lacks vision. The Republican Party does not. They want their country back, and damn it, they're going to get it. And their country is a whites-only citizen or a whites-first citizenry. We had two opportunities in the Democratic Party. One was to elect the very first woman president. My dream ticket would have been Warren Harris. That would have been my dream ticket, because Elizabeth Warren talked more about ending segregation and disrupting segregationist practices than anybody, and that included Kamala Harris. She has a vision. She has plans, but she was marginalized. The second opportunity we had was down in South Carolina with Jim Clyburn. Jim Clyburn told us all to vote for Joe Biden, just like the Democratic Party is telling us all to vote for Joe Biden, and Joe Biden has no vision. Jim Clyburn had no vision. No one told us what are we going to get in return for voting for Joe Biden other than getting rid of Donald Trump. But getting rid of Donald Trump does not feed my children, does not get my children's student loans.
But to that, yeah, that's true. But I think in the immediate sort of urgency of the moment, like something has to get fixed. Like I think that. But to your point, yeah, I mean that precludes a vision.
Why not both ends, Charles? Why not both ends?
Right. Yeah.
Why can't I vote for someone who's not only going to defeat Donald Trump, but is going to address white supremacy writ large? That's going to understand that the problem is not the symptom. The problem is the core issue of systemic racism that courses through the veins of this country, because white power and white supremacy and segregationist policies and practices are ubiquitous across this country. Why can't someone say that? And why didn't that get said and responded to and supported when Elizabeth Warren started to talk about those things? And why didn't Jim Clyburn, who is an icon in his own state, raise those issues?
You know what? And I've always felt that, to your point, Mike, I've always felt like you can say that without feeling as if your back is against the wall or feeling as if you're going to alienate moderate or independent or Republican white voters who might, throw a fit. Because I think there's a way to say that,
Charles,
to frame
this is a fight. This is a war. This is a fight. If we are not willing to fight because we're constantly running around with an olive branch in our hand while we're getting the crap slapped out of us by the other side, because they are in a war, they are in a fight, they are scared of the encroachment of multiculturalism, they fear the loss of white power. If we don't understand that it is those folks, not just Donald Trump, they elected a crook because that is the character of who they are, and they want to win at all costs. If we don't,
but then you got to win the election first. Like, you can't throw the election though. You got to win that election first.
I'm sorry. So what you're telling me is that if we stand up with a vision for an inclusive America that prioritizes the most vulnerable populations, and we call out white supremacy directly as the enemy, if we do that, you're saying that message itself is a losing message.
Now, I'm not saying that, but I'm just telling you that's what, because I think that there's a way you can frame that without losing that election. But there are people who don't know how to frame it, who are in charge of those campaigns, and that's what they're thinking. They're like, if we go too strong on that message, we're going to lose this. We're going to alienate a big chunk of the electorate. Yeah. Hey, Mike, I got to let you go.
50 years, we've won elections, right? But we've never won the war.
Never won the war. That's a good point. Mike, I got to let you go. Unfortunately, it's a great conversation as always. I appreciate you. Mike Green, economic strategist. You go to scaleuppartners.com for more of that there, at a Mike Green 2, at a Mike Green, the number 2 on social media, on Twitter more specifically. Go to thebenote.com. That's THEBEnote.com to check out his latest reflections, his insights. There's an article there, How to Increase Black Productivity and Racial Equity. You can learn more about what he's talking about, and he's a regular contributor here on Reality Check WURD. Mike, thanks so much for your time as always. Take care. Be well.
Charles. Take care.
All right, we'll talk again. All right, let's take a break, and when we come back on the other side, we'll be talking with Stefan Hankin of Lincoln Park Strategies. Coming up next here on for our Reality Check, for our weekly strategist segment here on Reality Check, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, WordRadio.com, Word TV, Word app. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Start every Sunday the right way with Sunday Morning Praise, hosted by the Reverend Louise Williams Bishop. Every Sunday morning beginning at 6 a.m. right here on WURD 96.1 FM and 900 AM. Streaming live at onWordRadio.com and on the Word Radio app.
Hey, Word family. Our friends at Amoroso's Baking Company are hiring right now. Amoroso's has been baking the delicious bread in our community for over 100 years, and they want you to join their team today. The old and the young love Amoroso's, and they are hiring right now. Check it out. They offer fair pay and provide health, dental, and prescription plans after 90 days employment. Call 856-754-0355 or visit amorososbaking.com for details.
No fear, just facts. WURD. Solutions on Word. Hosted by Dwayne Royster and Amadi Braxton. Solutions on Word. Exploring solutions to national, state, and local issues through the lens of race and gender. Solutions on Word. Fridays 5 p.m. till 7 p.m. Exclusively on Word Radio. 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Solutions is sponsored by Power Interfaith Movement, working towards life, liberty, and democracy for all. Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on Word Radio and WordRadio.com.
All right, welcome back to Reality Check 96.1 FM, 900 AM, WordRadio.com, Word TV, Word app. So download that on your smartphone or tablet device. I see there are a lot of comments. There's also some sparring, some back and forth sparring that's happening on our Facebook live stream. Just to be clear here, open sparring between listeners, that's not something I enjoy. I don't want to encourage that. I hope I didn't give the impression that I am encouraging that. So let's, once again, I think people can disagree and should disagree, but let's be smart about it. Let's also be civil about it. Let's be real careful about the name calling or, calling folks outside of their name or using all sorts of, unseemly words and phrases. It is still, public talk radio. It is still family friendly. So we want to be cognizant and aware of that. And we want to be constructive in those conversations too. We want to make sure that those conversations lead to some sort of strategy, some sort of plan, and then, some sort of potential solution to a lot of these issues. At least that's what I'm trying to encourage here on Reality Check. And that's why I bring a lot of these various experts on. I'm not perfect at it. It's definitely, there's a wide, massive, infinite universe of people, of experts and analysts, smart people, folks from elected officials to activists to bring on. I know that there are people out there that I'm missing. It's a constant everyday journey, and it's one where I'm even evolving too. I just want to make sure people are constructive with these comments and these conversations, and they're trying to be as factual as possible. People may call in here and I may disagree with you, but if you're at least presenting me with some sort of intelligent argument that's based in some kind of facts, right? Like I'll entertain it. Like I'm open to it. Like I had, a listener who chimed in here on Twitter, was at Norris C. Jean, and she was making the point that the purpose of Beanie Siegel being out there knocking on doors, speaking against gun violence, serves the same purpose as when ex-gang members are used to talk to people about the same. That makes sense. That makes sense. It's a good point. It's a good point. So, I'm willing to see like how much of an impact that can be. So let's explore it further and see if like a strategy like that can work. But I think it's really important here. I'm sorry I wanted to take a pause, and I'm going to bring on Stefan in a quick moment, but I just think that that's important. We have to learn how to do that as much as possible. And you remember I've been telling you that the infodemic is as severe, it's as dangerous, it's actually more dangerous than the pandemic. The constant distribution of false information or false claims is why we're here now. It is killing people. It is killing people. And it's really important that we try to be as statistically informed and data informed as we can possibly be. And it's real easy to find. And I try to share these sources with you on this program. It's actually not that difficult to go find that information, to also sift through a lot of the white noise and the nonsense and the trolling, and get to clear, concise, and very solid factual data. It's there. It's there. You know, we try to present it to you as best we can, and we rely on those sources all the time. But that's why, like, I kind of take that journey very personally. But it's an evolving process for me. I'm not going to be right all the time. I don't profess to be right all the time. I am always open to being checked. Absolutely, you know, particularly if you're presenting me with a reasoned argument and you're presenting me with facts. I'm willing to be checked on that. I'm willing to be corrected. I've had those moments here on this program. I'm always willing to be humbled by that. But if you're presenting me with like baseless arguments or arguments that are kind of based on a lack of facts or a lack of factual evidence, it's going to be really hard for me to have that conversation. And that's where I'm going to start getting into cutting people off, because I'm like, what are you saying here? What do you mean? Like, I'm going to go a little nuts. So I'm just letting people know I'm forewarned, just like with that conversation about voting or not voting. I have zero tolerance for that not voting conversation. You will get shut down on that. And so anyway, let me go to Stefan Hankin and Lincoln Park Strategies, lpstrategies.com. Also go to Trinity.com and Trinity Research, where you can find more of his insights there. He joins us for our weekly strategy segment. Stefan, what's up, man?
Not too much. How you doing?
All right, hanging in there. So I know you got probably something to say about like just the impact of infodemic during the time of pandemic. I mean, I know you're saying a lot of that as well. You see that in a lot of your research. But I do want to get your thoughts, Stefan, before we go on more about that. Your first impressions of this Democratic National Convention. How'd it go last night?
I did fine for what this is, right? I mean, I think
right.
It's really hard to be a cheerleader for this whole thing. I mean, also at the same time, it's like there's not a ton you could really do with this. But I mean, I will say I think Democrats missed an opportunity here in that. There are people out there who can do this online thing really well and make it really interesting. And I think, and this is not just Democrats, like this is our entire society, right? Like it's like we're planning for like this instant vaccine to happen and everything's going to go back to normal. I think if from, April, they were just planning like this is going to be a virtual conference, I think or convention, they would have come up with a much better platform and way to do it. Now, that being said, I mean, there were some really good speeches last night. If anyone stayed awake and could sit there and watch it, Michelle Obama obviously capped the whole thing off, and I think that's a speech we're going to be talking about for a really long time. But it's just different when there's not a big audience and hooting and hollering and cheering and all that kind of stuff to really get as into it.
They should have done something like the NBA is doing right now, right?
With
Michelob Ultra, right? you could sign up and you could be like a fan right there. Yeah. Like you could be a virtual fan, right? They should have done something like
weird.
That. I don't know. I was just thinking about that. So but it's hard because we're doing this in an all digital environment. This is unprecedented. It's the first time we've ever done anything like this. But do you think that it resonated? I mean, did it resonate the same with a lot of other people out there who are watching, or they just kind of cared about, hey, I want to see those keynote speeches, and I just want to make sure that those keynote speeches, whether it's from Bernie Sanders or Michelle Obama or Congressman Clyburn, Calder did make a point that Clyburn's don't sleep on Clyburn's speech because he was there in Charleston, South Carolina. He talked about the history there, the very hard history of formerly enslaved Africans coming to that port there in Charleston, South Carolina. I just want to make sure that connects with me.
Yeah, and so conventions, I mean, I would argue are a little, I mean, it's basically like, how can we get, as many political junkies into a room as humanly possible? And then as it's been described by other people, it's kind of like, it's like being in high school, right? You're always trying to get an invite to sit at the cool kids table and what parties can I go to and all. It's for a very specific subset of people. And then, now we're cutting it down even more. So I think the number of people who are paying close attention are, few and far between. But then what ultimately ends up happening is if something is talked about and sort of the spin afterwards, then it starts getting some legs. People hear about it, right? To your point, right? I think Michelle Obama's speech is probably going to be watched about 3 million times because people are talking about it. James Clyburn's, Congressman Clyburn's, less so because it's not being talked about as much. And, you know, it's sort of like it's how a lot of things in our society works. But now this is just sort of like on, on steroids because we are just dealing with this.
Yeah, exactly. Stefan, with the inclusion of Republicans speaking throughout the DNC, is that going to work or is that going to backfire? Is there evidence that suggests that, like, you put John Kasich on the scene, on the stage in the Democratic convention, you'll get some Republican voters to hop over?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, sure. Like, you know, I think what they were kind of going for last night, or at least my take on it, is like we're making a safe landing zone for a lot of different people, right? So Republicans who don't want to vote for Trump but aren't like sure if they can vote for a Democrat because they don't do that. Then having some Republicans up there being like, look, I'm doing this. This is okay, right? Maybe this is a one-time thing, but we really need to do this now. And so they're creating that soft landing zone. And then Sanders' speech was sort of similar, but more for the left, where it was like, hey, like he might not be your cup of tea or like, your preferred candidate, but he's going to do enough that the left will be happy. And, so same kind of thing. Like, Bernie was there to try to make it so that his supporters were feeling comfortable enough to vote for Biden and not do something crazy like, voting third party or staying home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was my wonder about that, like how resonant that would be. And how resonant because that was one other thing I did sense from the Democratic National Convention. I mean, you're going to see the stark contrast between the diversity, the appearance of inclusion, all this kaleidoscope of different cultures that we're going to see all week versus what we're going to see next week with the Republican National Convention. So that's going to be very stark. People are going to see that. Will that resonate? And will that resonate with those white voters? Because you see, Democrats making that appeal, trying to convert those 2016 Trump voters.
Yeah, and I mean, I am going to miss my favorite game of every 4 years at the Republican convention, which is the Find the Black Guy game, and then
right.
The cameras they're like three, right? The cameras are just on them. It's like, look how diverse we are. So it's going to be real tough to do that this go around. But I would not be shocked if they found a few, people of color to be in the quote unquote audience so that they could show those screenshots and be like, see, we're a Big Ten. But yeah, I mean, I have a feeling next week is going to be totally bizarre. And I think, in the past, there was always sort of like a little bit of talk about a convention bump. I don't think that's been that really big a deal in the past. I mean, because, we've gone from in 1992 where Bill Clinton giving his speech at the convention was like the time that the vast majority of Americans was the first time they ever really saw him, heard him. So then you get a big bump out of that because I actually like this guy. He had nice things to say. Yeah, but and now we're just at a point where just with social media and everything, right? Like we've heard from these people a few 100,000 times, right? Like Joe Biden is not really introducing himself to any people. And Trump certainly isn't, right? I mean, the vast majority of people, it's baked in on what they're going to do. And it's going to come down to, the very few quote unquote swing voters and, how much voter suppression actually happens in November is where that's what's going to determine the outcome.
Yeah. No, that's unfortunate. How effective was the Harris pick by Biden, Stefan, based on what you're seeing over the past week?
Yeah, I mean, from a personal standpoint, I think a solid pick, right? I don't, of all the candidates that were out there, and I think everyone, brought different things to the table. I think Harris sort of brought the most, and I mean, he already committed to putting a woman on the ticket, and I there was very little in the landscape leading up to this choice that I was looking at it and saying, I think anything other than a black woman would, maybe Hispanic, but certainly a woman of color would fit the moment. And I think the other big thing for Biden is, can you look at this pick and say, she could step in if I don't make it all 4 years, which, I hate to say it, but given his age, there's sort of, it seems like the probability, I'm hoping it doesn't happen. I'm not saying it will happen, but there sort of feels a little bit more urgency to it than what we've seen in the past. So I think, a few of the candidates who I think probably, would have been excellent running mates, certainly have a lot of gravitas, but just weren't, well known on the national stage or, while being the mayor of Atlanta is not an easy job, but like I don't think enough voters would sort of view that as a clear stepping stone to being ready for the presidency. But I think with Harris, it's not a far out there pick. It's a safe-ish pick, but I think it was a solid pick.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's all about like it's just being safe. Like, Biden is just setting things up to, setting up future leadership, or what he and his team consider future leadership, a future candidate for 2024, or maybe someone who can step in the event that he decides that, hey, you know what, after a couple of years, I feel like I've got this thing, I've got the ship, moving along smooth enough that I can now go ahead and comfortably pass this on to my vice president to handle this on a more full-time basis. But he's definitely saying he's going to do one full term. So I definitely see a lot of safety there. There's a lot of safety moves that are happening right now, and with this convention, with respect to this election. But it's hard, right, Stephanie? Because it's people are looking for authenticity. There were a lot of voters out there who were looking for authenticity. They're looking for a little bit of anger. That's why Michelle Obama's speech was somewhat important, because she did say that. She kind of threw shade at the folks who had criticized her for talking about, when they go low, we go high. And she explained that. She gave it more context.
Yeah, no, 100%. And some shade, I think, is being
right.
I mean, there was a lot of that whole speech. I was like, oh.
Yeah, it was a whole lot there, right.
And then
where's the sun?
Like,
you're like, where's the sun?
And then others was like just like right in the face. I mean, it was great. I love her. She would have been a great pick for VP, although I'm sure she wanted zero to do with that. But yeah, and it's the so. Yes, on the authenticity, right? And I think Harris, we saw it in the primaries. When she went after Biden for the busing, and she doesn't mind having sharp elbows. She's beyond accomplished, right? On paper, as a person, the whole thing, right? Like, this is a super qualified person to be in this job. Certainly. Anyone is more qualified than what we have in the office right now. But, she's bringing this to a level where I don't see how any rational person can look at it and be like, she's not qualified for this job. And, she's sort of in this category of, she's not beloved by the left, but she doesn't totally piss off the left. And then I think the same thing with the sort of that other group that's key to the coalition are these, moderates to former Republicans. It's not a pick that really scares many people off. Now, I will say from national numbers and polling, there's I'm gonna forget who did it. It's either AP or Q or someone has asked about the sort of how much Americans approve of the pick, and then Harris actually has the lowest numbers of all VPs going back to I think it was 88 or something like that, or 92, and she's 8 points behind where Sarah Palin was. And, so that's not sexism, that's racism right there. So, you lose 8 points for being half black, half Asian in America. So, yeah. But in the big picture, I think a lot of it is, the pick is, and always is the case with VP, right? Just don't screw it up.
Exactly.
Sarah Palin. Yeah.
Exactly. I gotta let you go, Stefan Hankin, Lincoln Park Strategies. Go to LP our partner at Lincoln Park Strategies, at LP Strategies, LPstrategies.com. Also, don't forget to check out Trendancy.com. And he's highly engaged on social media, on Twitter more specifically. And he joins us here regularly on our strategist segment on Reality Check. Stefan, it's always a pleasure talking with you, man. Stay safe.
Thanks for having me.
All right, thank you. All right, 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900. Some open phone lines after this quick break.
Word Radio Digital Tip of the Week with Stephanie Humphrey.
I'm your Tech Life expert, Stephanie Humphrey, and this is your Word Digital Tip of the Week. Did you know that as long as you have a cell phone that still works, you can call 911? Even if you don't have a phone plan for that particular smartphone, if you can turn the phone on and charge the battery, you can dial 911. However, there are some limitations. Since you don't have a service plan on the cell phone, the 911 operator won't be able to call you back if they need to. Also, depending on how how old the phone is, it might not have the updated GPS technology that emergency responders would need to determine your location. But if you have an old phone laying around the house anyway, it's not a bad idea to keep it charged just in case of an emergency. Having another way to call 911 as a backup could come in handy because you never know when you might need it. Stay tuned to WURD for more tech tips and stay connected with us at wordradio.com.
The Word Digital Tip of the Week is brought to you by Comcast NBC Universal.
Listen to Laborers Live.
We created the weekend. We created the 40-hour work week. We just want enough to feed our family, be able to send our children to college, and let our next generation do better than we did.
To people that might have forgot how important unionism is in a country like the United States. People now infringing on our 8-hour workday, trying to work people more than 8 hours without overtime, trying to work people without benefits. In the long run, everybody's getting a fat paycheck except the worker. So this is really a wake-up call for America.
The struggle is continuous. Tune in to Laborers Live every Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. Sponsored by LESIT, the Laborers Employers Cooperation Education Trust of the Laborers District Council of Philadelphia and vicinity.
Local 332, Sam Staten Jr. Business Manager. Local 57, Esteban Vera Business Manager. Local 135, Dan Woodall Jr. Business Manager. Local 413, James Harper Jr. Business Manager. The Laborers District Council, Ryan Boyer Business Manager, and Tony Staten, Executive Director of LESIT.
Support independent black media and join the 4Word movement now at 215-425-7875 or visit wordradio.com. Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on Word Radio and wordradio.com.
All right, this Thursday is Founders Day. Founders Day, don't forget about it. We are celebrating the life and legacy of Walter P. Lomax, Jr., MD, Philly-born physician, entrepreneur, philanthropist, and founder of WURD Radio. We do this annual exercise because of the pandemic. For the first time, we are doing this all virtually. There's a lot of first-time virtual exercises that are going on here in 2020, but I think all of you have gotten pretty much used to that rhythm with a lot of these events. But we do miss, one thing I do miss is that annual moment where I get to sit down with everyone, break a little bread, have some conversation, shake hands, get hugs. I'm going to miss that. I'm really going to miss that. But we'll do the best that we can with special Founders Day programming from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. here on WURD Radio. Be on FM, AM 96.1 FM, 900 AM, wordradio.com. So Philly can still plug into it. The rest of the world, Philly can show off its gym. It's Black Talk Media, Black Media Gym, WURD, so wordradio.com. Also Word TV, Word app. So don't forget to download that app in time for Founders Day. We're going to have an entire day of panels on everything from access and equity in medicine, doctors who are fighting on the front line for that, economic empowerment and entrepreneurship. We'll also be talking about the green economy, about the environment. We've got an EcoWord panel coming up. We're going to be celebrating the 100th anniversary. We do have the 100th anniversary now happening today, the women's right to vote. And that conversation is going to be happening with Black women elected officials. Also throughout the day, reflections on the life and legacy of Dr. Lomax with his family and friends. That's going to be happening. Also, we're rebooting WURD's Livelihood Initiative. That's designed to connect Black Philadelphians to jobs, career readiness information, entrepreneurship opportunities, and financial literacy as well. So 96.1 FM, 900 AM, wordradio.com, Word TV, Word app. You can get the Word TV by going to facebook.com/4word. Or on the Word website. Also, don't forget there's a special Founders Day discount for the 4Word membership. If you join or renew on Founders Day, you'll get a discounted rate of $80. So normally the regular membership price is $90. You get a $10 discount. It'll just be $80 on Founders Day. Go to wordradio.com for more information and for the full lineup of speakers and panels to register for Founders Day, so you're eligible to win prizes. Yes, there will be prizes and special giveaways throughout the day, so we're definitely looking forward to that. Looking forward to seeing you there virtually, since we can't see you there in person, but that's okay. We're all going to get through this. 215-634-8065. Toll free, it is 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. 215-634-8065. Toll free, it is 361-0900. Go to thebnote.com. So that's THEBE note.com. That's because I know one or two people had a little confusion there. They were going to another site, but it's THEBE note.com. Check out the, I put together a bit of polling analysis, what the polls look like, what the presidential race looks like right now at the start of the Democratic National Convention. The title of that piece is As the DNC Starts, the State of the Race. It's just a quick overview of presidential polling numbers. Some recent notable polls show, we did talk about this the other day, there was a CNN poll that showed Biden-Harris ahead by just 4 points, That's real slim. That's statistically, that's when you add in or factor in margin of error, that's a tie. 50% to 46%, Biden-Harris against Trump. Pence, so that was that CNN poll. Then you have a ABC News Washington Post poll showing 54% of Americans approving of Joe Biden's pick of Senator Kamala Harris as his running mate. So it's to me, that's still slim. I was having like a little exchange with someone on Twitter who was saying slim, and they laughed at that. I'm like, yeah, that's slim, because I would expect a pick like that's a solid pick. So why can't it be 60 plus? Because this same research firm that did this poll for ABC News Washington Post, they showed Sarah Palin's pick by John McCain back in 2008, 60% of Americans. So there were more Americans. There was a slightly higher number of Americans who actually were down with Sarah Palin's pick by John McCain than now today, fast forward today, than Americans approving of Kamala Harris's pick. And I just find that funny. I just find that rather slim. Let me go to Sadie out of Sharon Hill, who's calling in for a reality check. Sadie, how are you doing?
Good morning, Charles. I'm fine. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning.
Okay, basically, I just wanted to call in and talk about Michelle Obama's speech last night. And,
yes,
I watched the convention, and right after she finished, I kept it on. But I just burst into tears. I really did. I cried, and I'm not a crier per se, but and afterwards I'm thinking to myself, what is it that brought that on? And for me, I guess it's a combination, maybe for a lot of people, I don't know, I can't speak for others, of what's been going on these last 4 years. I missed the Obamas. People had their comments about what President Obama didn't do and, yada, yada, and all that kind of stuff. But the dignity, the beauty, the confidence, the intelligence, which, she exudes, for me as a black woman and for so many women who are not black, I just I took it personally, I guess is what you'd say. Then you got the comments, like today, everybody's critiquing this, that, and the other. But what I wanted to say about your particular guest regarding things he felt that they should have said, I won't say quiet as is kept, but news is generated in different parts of the country on different channels. And there is a bishop, I have his name in one of my other books, who does have a program or a movement that's going on where what they are doing is gathering, I guess is the best word I could use, people who are poor, people who are, if you want to use that word, disenfranchised, and they're making sure that they get their ballots or they get registered. They are going around collectively and ensuring that these people get the opportunity to vote. So we can be critical of different things that we're not aware of. But, bottom line for me is just do a little research beyond what it is that you're looking at personally, and we talk about optics. What's a winning position? What's not a winning position? I don't think Elizabeth Warren would have elevated Joe Biden, any further than what he already was, but to see Kamala Harris there as a black woman, I look at and see all the little girls and as well as women. I see my granddaughters, looking at her. So we all come with a different perspective. But
I agree with that.
We just need to calm down with the rhetoric on ourselves. Yes, we can have different opinions. We often hear we're not a monolith, and I agree with that. But sometimes I think we just need to be a bit more on the positive side as opposed to the negative side. And as for me, I mean, I was upset when I heard you guessing. I wrote down with certain things he was saying, but that part about not being authentic, I was done.
Yeah.
And that's just me. That's my personal opinion.
No,
but,
I respect that, and I agree.
You know,
with much of
and
that,
that's really pretty much what I call, but maybe to vent, I guess is what you might say.
I mean,
but,
I had issues too. Like I said, I've had issues too, in my assessment of. I think that there was some positive top line presentation that I saw at the DNC last night, and I do feel, you know, to our previous guest, Stefan Hankin, he was saying, you know, they could do a little bit better. Just, and this is more technical. This is not like, you know, slamming the DNC or slamming the Democratic Party. It's just in terms of, you know, we're probably nitpicking here. To your point, Sadie, we are nitpicking here a little bit, you know, in terms of some of the technical aspects of it. But that's just because people like myself and Stefan, we actually work in the space. You know, I always remind people that, like, I didn't start off in talk radio. I started off in doing political strategy work and messaging. And so but that's just me looking at it from the vantage point of a professional in that space. I see some deficiencies that they can work on, and they probably still have some time over the next few days. Ms. Sadie, I got to let you go. But thank you for calling. I appreciate your thoughts too as well. Let me go into a break, and when we come back on the other side, we're scheduled to talk with Rob Santos of the Urban Institute, Vice President and Chief Methodologist at the Urban Institute. We're going to talk about the census, the 2020 census. He's been doing some research for years on that. Here on Reality Check 96.1 FM 900 AM, wordradio.com, Word TV, Word app. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Fridays, it's right here on Word Radio. At 6 a.m., start your day with Daybreak, hosted by Helana. At 7, it's time to wake up with Word, with host Solomon Jones. Then at 10, it's a special edition of The Source with Tiffany Bacon, followed by Groundings at 1 p.m., hosted by Brother Shamari. At 4 p.m., it's Laborers Live, hosted by Lessit. Then at 5, it's Solutions on Word. At 7 p.m., it's the Envy McKee Show. Then at 10, it's Freedom Sounds of Jazz, followed up by Messages in the Music, hosted by Joey Temple. Fridays are something special on Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Streaming live at wordradio.com and on the Word Radio app.
What's up, everyone? I know you know the word, no, not the station, but this word, J-O-B, that is, and our friends at Amoroso's Baking Company are hiring right now. Amoroso's has been baking the delicious bread in our community for over 100 years, and they want you to join their team today. The old and the young love Amoroso's, and they are hiring right now. Check it out. They offer fair pay and provide health, dental, and prescription plans after 90 days employment. Call 856-754-0355 or visit amorososbaking.com for details.
Philadelphia families, PHL Pre-K, the city's free pre-K program, is now enrolling. Over 130 pre-K centers are getting ready to serve children this year with appropriate health and safety precautions. There are no income limits for this free pre-K program. Children who are 3 or 4 years old as of September 1 can enroll. Call 844-PHL Pre-K or visit phlprek.org to learn more and find a quality pre-K center. That's 844-PHL Pre-K. This program is made possible by the Philadelphia Beverage Tax.
Home of the Happy Hour. With Sincerely Sarita. This is Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia. Streaming live at wordradio.com and on the Word Radio app. Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on Word Radio and wordradio.com.
All right, welcome back to Reality Check 96.1 FM 900 AM, wordradio.com if you're listening beyond Greater Philly, Delaware Valley. You're listening throughout the nation. Also, don't forget about Word TV at facebook.com/forward and then /videos if you want to watch us live on Word TV and the Word app. You can download that on your smartphone or your tablet device. Take that wherever you go around the planet. So I know right now we're limited as to where we can go because of pandemic, but definitely that Word app comes in handy when you're on the go, and particularly for those not just in Philly but beyond as well. Joining us now is Rob Santos. He is Vice President and Chief Methodologist at the Urban Institute think tank based in Washington, D.C. Go to urban.org for more information. Also, they've done some fantastic work at urban.org. They've had this interactive feature research tool that you could use to see who's at risk of being miscounted, who's most at risk, what population groups are most at risk of being undercounted or miscounted in this 2020 census. And they also show you data from the previous census in 2010. Rob Santos has worked very long and hard on making sure that that research is as accurate and comprehensive and available as possible. So we have him here now on Reality Check to talk more about the 2020 census with us. Rob, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me.
All right, excellent. No, thanks for being here. So once again, go to urban.org for more. Talk about the problems with the 2010 census first, and whether that census was worse than what we're seeing now. Was it worse than 2010, or what you're seeing now in 2020? There's a lot of controversy around it. There are a lot of concerns that we're still going to get a lot of miscounts and undercounts. Is it much worse in 2020 than it was in 2010? Did we really learn any lessons from 2010?
We certainly learned a lot of lessons. However, we went to school, but we didn't put our lessons into practice. In 2010, it was purported to be one of the most accurate counts in the history of decennial censuses. However, it was an unfair count, and it was unfair because African Americans, Latinx, immigrants, renters, folks who are part of vulnerable populations were net undercounted. We didn't count as many as we should have based on the quality checks the census did, while other folks like elderly and whites in suburbs were overcounted. And when you put the two together, it came out overall relatively accurate according to the census for 2010. Switch to 2020, and we are literally in a different universe. And the reason we're in a different universe is because of COVID, the economy, the disparate impact on African American populations, Latinx folks, immigrants, the same types of hard-to-count people as before, and a series, one after the other, of administration policies that have exacerbated the ability of the Census Bureau to conduct a high-quality census, and it's depressed the populations, especially the immigrant African American, Latinx populations, and even Native Americans and Asians, from participating because of things like the citizenship caucus question, the memorandum to count citizens and undocumented immigrants, the shortening of the timeline, the addition of high-level deputy director political appointees at the census. The list just goes on and on. And so census is really in a crisis right now. They have both hands tied behind them. They've been thrown into the water, and they're expected to swim.
It seems like every census, at least every decennial census, if I think back to as far back as 1970, right? There always seems to be, for that year, like a, is it just me? Well, no. Yeah, an issue. Like, yeah, there's an issue. And I guess it's is there a difference in terms of how the how different administrations are different? Does it matter like which party is in charge of that administration that's going to officiate the census that year? That has a lot to do with it, kind of the partisan composition of government, the ideological composition of government. Is that what we're saying in terms of how that, like that statement you made earlier that, the last census was reported to be accurate, but on a lot of levels it was unfair. At that time, 2010 census, well, I mean, you had a Democratic administration, but what seems to be the problem there? I mean, does partisan and ideological disposition inform a lot of that?
Well, historically, the U.S. U.S. Census Bureau, the largest and arguably the most reputable scientific statistical agency in the world, has been nonpartisan and is. The career staff are nonpartisan. They take their oath to the Constitution seriously. They take their scientific integrity seriously, and they have been allowed, even though there's a political appointee as director, they have been allowed, and it's been the norm, to let the federal statistical agencies like the Census Bureau do their thing. And they have over the course of the past decades. Sure, there's going to be blips here and there. No census is perfect. The Census Bureau has measures to address the imperfections. They don't always get it right, just like in 2010, but they get near. They get close enough that we can move on, we can learn from the mistakes, and try to adjust for them in the next census. This time around, none of that learning has been allowed to materialize. There was too little testing because of the underfunding of the census throughout the decade, and now with all the additional barriers that have been put down, there have been arguably, I wouldn't even say arguably, there's no question that there has been partisan interference in the ability of the census to implement the decennial census and do its job.
So Rob, but there's this history of the census being weaponized, being used as a tool to do exactly what we're seeing, like what we saw in the previous census and kind of what we're seeing now. I mean, even your own project here at urban.org, it's an interactive project, 2020 census, who's at risk of being miscounted. You're projecting undercounts of the Black population, for example, that are as high as nearly 4%. I mean, on the low range, it'll be like a little bit over 2%. That's high when you talk about the total Black population, which is going to be projected at about 47 million. But for white people, they may get undercounts as high as 0.03%. It's so statistically insignificant that there's no undercount of the white people. They're going to make sure all the white people get counted. But when it comes to the Black people, and then we look at the Hispanic, Latinx folks, I mean, undercounts as high as almost 4%. So address that even though it's this nonpartisan organization or bureau, it has had this effect of being weaponized against demographic groups of color, to try to keep those, because I mean, there could be we're saying that it's definitely a lot more people of color in the United States than this census lets on every 10 years.
Well, let's just set the stage right. Historically, the census has had difficulty counting certain populations like African Americans, Latinx, Native Americans, Asians, etc. And through the count, over the course of 10 years, billions, if not trillions, of dollars of funding are provided based on those counts.
Yeah.
Political representation is allocated based on those counts. State legislative districts are created based on those counts down to the block level now. And decisions like where a grocery store goes, where a highway or a stop sign or a stoplight or a factory is built, decisions like that are made that have economic impact on the community based on those counts. When you don't sufficiently count minority populations, you're basically disenfranchising them. You're saying that the counting process, as best as it could be done, was not good enough to allow full representation and equity in the distribution of those resources. So it's a matter of structural racism. Historically, the Census Bureau has done, I think, as best it could do given its resources. This time around, however, I expect there will be massive undercounts of minority populations, and the historical inequities that have been baked into our society as far as allocating resources and political representation are going to be put on steroids for the next 10 years because of a flawed count. So we have to do everything we can right now to get the African American community, the Latinx communities, the immigrant communities, whether you're a citizen or not, to participate, because that's how you get the resources, the funding, the opportunity that we all deserve. We have to be counted. We deserve to be counted. We deserve those funds. We deserve that economic opportunity.
So basically, systematic racism gets worse with a flawed census. Full stop. Like, that's the tweet, as they say.
Yes. Correct.
Rob, this conversation, because the conversation has a lot of texture to it, a lot of nuance. Some people may perceive it as, particularly at first glance when they first touch it, as a very sophisticated and complicated conversation, the census, because they're not exactly understanding what's going on here. How much do you, I mean, I know we're in the middle of a pandemic, so it's really difficult to get that accurate count, particularly for what they call the hard to reach populations in neighborhoods, say like a neighborhood like, or neighborhoods like where I grew up in North Philadelphia may be considered hard to reach. It depends on people live in houses or if they live in apartment complexes or buildings, right? But do we worry about the conversation, the public discourse on the census being so complex and that it's just not getting through? I mean, this is not as pop culture a conversation as the election is right now, because you can make the argument that the census is probably even more consequential than, I mean, voting is already important, but you can make that argument. Some people can make the argument, hey, no, you know what? Definitely go get your vote done, get your vote on. That's important. But hey, there's something even more important over here called the census.
I could not agree with you more than 100%.
Wow.
It would be nice. I totally support peaceful protests because the racial, civic injustices that are civil injustice that is being revealed more, even though it already existed. We should go out and peacefully basically say this is wrong and society needs to change. But that's not, it will be effective eventually because we have to, keep having our voice, forcing our voice to be heard. But in the meantime, something that's equally and arguably more effective would be to fill out a census form, be counted, allow your household to be part of the funding formulas that will help support your community.
Wow. Like I hear what you're saying. I mean, that probably is the most effective form of protest, is by taking a census. When you're finally counted. Yeah, I mean, that's even more effective. I mean, at various protests, you see people filling out petitions. And I wonder about that. I'm like, are people telling people, hey, listen, while you're filling out this petition, oh, did you fill out the census? Oh, well, this is what you need to do. I mean, and I know voter registration booths are happening and all of that, but that's a very good point. And that's something that may not be getting out there as much, or may not be as clear to the larger population. So you feel this census right now is more accessible now, like than it's ever been in the past? Because it's easier to take now. There's fewer questions. There's also, in terms of the online component of it. What about that in terms of how the census is being conducted right now? The customer service, the customer experience.
It's actually never been easier to take the census. You have an online version. You have a calling number in different languages.
Yeah.
You have a mail version, and people are already starting to knock on doors if you haven't filled one out, and you can fill it out that. However, that comes in the face of COVID and economic downturn. So at the same time, it's never been easier to fill out the census. We have African American families, Latinx families, etc., in situations where they are worried about their health. They have in their homes loved ones who are ill, They don't know whether to take them to the hospital because they don't have health insurance. You have individuals who've lost jobs. They have no money. The stimulus checks never came because who knows why. And people are hungry. Families are hungry. They need to feed their kids. The last thing that's going to be on their minds is going to be, oh, I should run out and fill out a census form. So we need to find a way to address basic needs of our people as well as encourage them to fulfill the census. And that's going to be a really hard thing to do in the next 30 or 40 days or so.
Wow. Well, how bad was that change? Like literally we're in the fourth quarter of this game, of the census game, and then suddenly the deadlines change. Like it's changed from October 30th to, October 31st to September 30. Yeah. How bad was that?
That's fully 1/3 of the time that the census had allocated to knocking on doors. It's catastrophic. It's the final nail on the coffin that pretty much guarantees that the census is not going to be anywhere near as good as it has been in the past half century.
Was that a directive? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Rob. Finish that.
There was actually a census that was whose counts were canceled by Congress. I believe it was 1920 or 30, somewhere around there. Yeah. And we could be facing that if the damage is as bad as it could be.
Wow. Who the Census Bureau made that decision? It was the administration, the Trump administration. That directive came from the White House to change that deadline.
Yeah, it was quite curious. Which all you have to it's not a matter of scratching your head. It's a matter of pulling your hair out. The Census Bureau realized when it had to postpone operations due to COVID, the COVID epidemic, it stopped for a month or so, and it asked the White House to allow it an extra 6 months before it submits its counts. So rather than the end of December, it would be the end of April. The White House said, sure. In fact, I recall words like, why even ask? You shouldn't even have to ask, something of that sort. But so the assumption then was that it was going to go to Congress. Congress dictates when the submission date is through legislation. The Census Act currently requires the end of December submission of the counts to the White House. So the assumption was Congress was going to make a bill and everybody was set up to pass it. Well, come about a month ago or so, the White House changed its mind. In the midst of the COVID going basically national from New York City to now spread everywhere, it decided that it preferred the current timing, and it demanded that census submit suddenly in December 31st. And so census is now scrambling, having laid out a new plan to submit in April, now has to scramble to submit its data December 31st, which means not only are the operations in the field knocking on doors cut short, but you're gonna have to accept a lot less quality of responses, and there's going to be a lot less processing time to catch the errors. In fact, there's a census operation called Census Review Operation, strangely enough, that was done in 2010, was fully planned for 2020, and it suddenly was taken off the schedule. So we don't even know if there's going to be a census review operation to check the quality of the census before the counts get made and submitted. So it's just one disaster after another.
Well, all right. We've been talking with Rob Sanchez. Rob, we're probably going to bring you back because and there's a listener who's watching on Facebook Live who has a very good question about and I know where to find this information, so I'm going to direct them very shortly. But they made a good point about what is the funding formula? Where is the spreadsheet that directly shows money allocations connected with the census count? Is that information real quick? Is that available? on Urban Institute's website?
There's a gentleman named Andrew Reamer at George Washington University.
That's what I was thinking
so
of.
If you Google Andrew Reamer GWU, you'll come across, he has an entire website devoted for how census data is used to allocate everything from Medicare to food stamps to Medicaid, etc.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
school lunch program, etc.
Andrew Reamer, Counting for Dollars 2020, the role of the decennial census and the geographic distribution of federal funds. That's
go.
Andrew Reamer out of GWU at the George Washington University. And it's a long web address, so I just go Google it, Counting for Dollars 2020, the role of the decennial census and the just put that in the search term, and you should come up with that. Thank you for that question too, Junior Lee. We've been talking with Rob Santos. Rob Santos is the vice president and chief methodologist at the Urban Institute. Go to urban.org for more information there. And he's at _Rob_Santos on Twitter, on social media, if you'd like to engage him there. I have more questions for him. Rob, I think we're going to bring you back. We just had to keep having this conversation about the census, make sure everyone is taking it. Thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Let's do it. Okay. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you, sir.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you for the research as well. This is real key research. Go to urban.org for that interactive map of who's at risk of being miscounted, and it's bad. So a lot of work to do. Please take your census if you have not taken it now, or look for those enumerators in your neighborhood, in your community today. You have to take that census. That's just absolutely essential. And I feel bad here because I don't think I've stressed. I know we've talked so much about the election and the vote. I need to up my game to stress people to take the census, and I'm going to start doing that, trying to make a habit out of it. And please remind me, folks out there listening, and remind me to remind folks, to press folks to take that census. That's just something that we have to do. All right, let me take a break. And when I come back on the other side, we're going to be talking with Cameron Whitten of the Black Resilience Fund out there in Portland, Oregon. We're going to talk about what that is, the concept that he came up and how they've been raising so much money, but they've got about 40,000 Black Portlanders to take care of out there. But BlackResilienceFund.com for more information on that effort. We wanted to learn more about it, so we're bringing on Cameron Whitten, the founder of that. Next here on Reality Check 96.1 FM, 900 AM, WordRadio.com, Word TV, Word app. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
If you want to start your morning with mindfulness, motivation, and inspiration, tune in to Daybreak with me, Helana, here on WURD Radio, Monday through Friday from 6 to 7 a.m. I'm a health and wellness coach with over 15 years experience helping people to transform their lives. On the show, we talk health and wellness 360, from getting your mind right to getting your money right. So let's rise and shine together right here on WURDradio.com, 96.1 FM, 900 on your AM dial, on Daybreak every morning.
Brothers and sisters, we've seen enough. It's time to get together. We can do big things together, just like they did. President Obama and Vice President Biden passed healthcare reform, helped rescue the auto industry, and created more than 15 million jobs. And right now, together, we can help Joe Biden do it again as president, to unify this country and fix the issues that we're facing right now. Real police reform, expanding access to high-quality education, protecting our right to vote, and rebuilding the economy so that it works for us. Now is the time for us to rise up and do this together with Joe Biden. Go to joebiden.com/BlackAmerica to learn more.
I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Biden for President.
The coronavirus continues to affect us all, and AARP is here in Philadelphia, actively supporting you and your community. Every day, they're providing trusted information from experts, working to protect people from fraud, supporting family caregivers, and making it easier for neighbors to help neighbors through the new AARP Community Connections website. Learn what AARP is doing to connect and support our community during this unprecedented time. We may be apart, but we're not alone. Click to connect at aarp.org/near you.
This is Word Radio, independent Black media.
Now check it out.
Check with Charles Ellison right now on Word Radio and WordRadio.com.
All right, welcome back to Reality Check, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, WordRadio.com, Word TV, Word app. Joining us right now is the founder of and executive director, or co-founder and executive director of the Black Resilience Funds based out in Portland, Oregon. His name's Cameron Whitten. He's a longtime nonprofit executive. He started this new blackresilienceFund.com. They were featured recently in the Washington Post. That's how I took notice of them, and doing some real good work out there. I know it's a lot of work. It's a lot of hard work. And he'd probably be the first to tell you that he's got much more to do, and a lot more people to reach. But we want to know what they're doing out there, and if it's a model that can be replicated in other places and spaces. Cameron Whitten joins us by phone. Cameron, how are you doing, sir?
Good morning. I am alive, and thank you for having me here this morning.
All right, excellent, excellent. We really appreciate it. I know it's very early in the morning for you out there in Portland, Oregon, because you're out there on the West Coast, but we had one other guest who was on here with us who's out there in Oregon, not in Portland specifically, but is in Oregon. He comes on rather frequently, so we figured, okay, that's no problem. We bug folks out on the West Coast from every now and then to wake up early in the morning.
Yes.
So we'll bug Cameron, see if he'll come on, see if he'll take us on. What triggered you to come up with the Black Resilience Fund? What was that moment that drove you into action, and why the term resilience?
Yeah, I created the Black Resilience Fund in response to the emotional storm that our communities are grappling with right now, which is compounded by a global pandemic and a Black pain. I've been a Black Lives Matter activist since Black Lives Matter. I remember in 2014 being a part of a caravan of a dozen Black Portlanders. We went down to Ferguson a month after Mike Brown was murdered. We have seen rally after rally, hashtags and lawn signs and thoughts and prayers for years. No change happening, nothing sufficient. And so when I first saw the headlines about George Floyd, I braced myself. This was not the first time that we heard "I can't breathe." This was the first time that we saw on video a Black man's life taken over agonizing minutes and broadcasted across the entire world. There was nothing new about this situation. And so when I first saw the video, when I first saw the headlines, I braced myself because I did not expect for anything to change. Very early on, I could tell that there was a paradigm shift. And immediately I was inundated, flooded at text messages, phone calls, emails from white people that I knew who were checking in on me, asking me how I was doing, how I can support you. It was so from left field. I actually started reaching out to other Black people. Are you sending these messages? What's going on here? And I was relatively okay. I didn't need their support, but I knew of dozens of my own Black friends who were not getting that kind of attention, who were not getting the support that they needed. And so the Sunday after George Floyd was murdered, I went to Facebook and I made a post. I said, we all just survived a long, painful week. That's an extension of a year that's challenged all of us to our core. Yeah. As we call for systemic change, we also make an immediate impact in the lives of our community. And so I said, for my non-Black siblings, if you can donate, we've got people who need, groceries. They need a warm meal. They need bills paid. Reach out to me, and we'll make sure that your dollars go to where they're needed. And I expected, because I've done fundraising on Facebook before, my expectation was maybe we'll raise $5,000 over 2 days' time, and we'll take care of some folks. What ended up happening was that I was stuck at my kitchen table for 11 hours in this marathon session. I felt like I was a stockbroker, except where I was helping community, because I had all of these folks, Black Portlanders, who had given me their bills, the amounts they needed, and white folks were emailing me saying, hey, how do I help? And I would send them, here's a list of 40 names and the bills they have and what they need. Give me your money, and I'll get it to them. And I just spent 11 hours just going back and forth between these two groups. And we raised over $11,000. By the next day, we launched officially the Black Resilience Fund on GoFundMe. And the reason why we picked the term resilience is because that is a universal, quality that every single one of us as human beings understand. We understand struggle. We understand challenges. We understand survival and overcoming. And so this moment, as in every moment, we must channel our resilience. Even during our most challenging and difficult times, we can show our best selves and we can move forward as a community. And so we created the Black Resilience Fund as a way to foster healing and resilience in our entire community. And it's been amazing to see the response, how it's resonated with Portlanders of all backgrounds. In 28 days, we raised over $1 million with over 11,000 donations. And we've continued going since June 1st to help as many Black Portlanders as possible.
Now, you, based on news reports, you've raised total, is that true? Like close to 1.5 million?
Yeah, so we're currently at 1.5 million.
Wow. Is there a more sort of complex formula that you put into action to determine who to give money to? Because I know part of the appeal of the Black Resilience Fund is there's very little bureaucracy in accessing those funds, or if folks are kind of in need of that emergency relief, there's not a whole lot of questions asked. So, but I mean, is there like some sort of method to dispersing those resources? How do you determine if a Black Portlander is in true need?
Yeah, so we are in the middle of a crisis, and we acknowledge the realities of this country, that our wealth gap, our racial wealth gap, is staggering, and we do not need to see the receipts to confirm that. We know that the immediate need, we trust Black folks. We our donors, and we promised people who were looking for funds that the two criteria that we will make sure of was that you are Black and that you live within the 4-county area. For us, we see the Black Resilience Fund as a model for reparations, that we can raise significant money. We can take wealth that has been unearned for years and invest it in our community. And just like our institutions and white folks who are never questioned about why they got this money, do they need this money, our Black folks, we see them. We don't interrogate them. We show them that they matter and their needs matter too. And so for us, our goal is to help as many people as possible. As you said, 40,000 Black folks in our Portland region. We already got 10,000 applications. You do the math, $1 million doesn't stretch that far. And so our goal is to give $300 to as many Black Portlanders as possible, which means real tangible relief to many people. And in Oregon, we've dealt with a crisis with our unemployment system, where there are folks who've been waiting for 3 months now to get a single unemployment check. And so it's wild to think that this organic grassroots movement that started on accident has gotten immediate financial relief in ways that they still have not gotten from the state. And so that's our call, that we know the resources are out there to address wealth inequality. We are using this window of people waking up to the realities of this country, that we have to do something about it. We need to shift policy. We can also show immediately what positive impact transferring this wealth is going to do for our community. So, yes, we're doing that immediate financial. We also
and to Cameron, while you're talking, I don't know if you realize, we can hear most of what you're saying, but because this is a really important conversation too, and I appreciate you. We're talking with Cameron Whitten, co-founder of the Black Resilience Fund. If you can just check your phone signal, if you will, just to make sure you're coming through clearly. Can you hear us good?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. No, because it's real important what you're saying. Are policymakers coming to you? Or we had, like, about a couple of weeks ago, we had a state representative, Janelle Bynum. You probably know her because it's only like.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, it's only like 2 or 3. Okay, great. And she was talking about how even before the pandemic, even before the protests that have been happening out there in Portland, it's hard being Black and living in Portland, but it's like the scenery out there is like, and I've seen it, it's like God's country. That's the way she described it. Like, when you come out here and you see Portland, you see the country and the forest, and it's so like idyllic in terms of the environment that you just want to stay. But she's like, it's really hard there. But are the policymakers, are they coming to you and saying, hey, how can we expand this model? How can we, because you just said it, this could be like a reparations model.
Yeah, well, what we knew was that $1 million, while it is an aspirational number, it's a number that people are impressed by. When you look at the data, you look at the facts, we have to do so much more. And that is going to require institutional systemic change. What has happened in Oregon was that the Black Resilience Fund has been able to inspire local leaders to do more. And so a month after the Black Resilience Fund was created, there was an initiative launched that was a coalition of dozens of Black organizations in Oregon called the Oregon Cares Fund, and to ensure that $62 million from our coronavirus response fund were specifically targeted to Black Oregonians statewide. It's historic. We've never seen anything of that size specifically dedicated to Black Oregonians. So we got that passed, and it's opening the door for us to continue to do more in the future. And so that's one great example. The work still continues. One of the challenges happening here in Portland is that there's a lot of back and forth happening around how do you transform policing as we know it. But we need for our local leaders to really stay focused on how state violence is manifesting in all of the ways, including education, including our economy, including healthcare. We've got to bring all of those perspectives to the table.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? I wonder too. I wonder about it because it's interesting how like you started this Stars Black, which to me it seems like kind of obvious. Because you know what? I'll be honest, Cameron. After I saw that Washington Post article, I immediately started texting that and emailing that and tweeting it to folks. And I tweeted even some folks like in communities like Philly who are in a position to do things like this. And I'm like, have you guys seen this? Just so I don't want to create any like unnecessary tension between you and other folks in the space you work with, but it just seems to me like organizations, like I even talked to some national folks at some major national Black organizations. I'm like, y'all could be doing this. I mean, it kind of, I feel like you kind of upstaged, and that's a good thing. You kind of like pushed other organizations who have been in this space for a long time to do that very simple work. Because then I've talked about this before, like a concept like yours in the past, and people look at you like you're crazy, because I'm like, just something simple, a centralized, organized fund that's branded, that's pushed out there, popularized really well, and just raise the money and just cut the checks. Like, just don't keep it simple, right? Because that was, I think, kind of the brilliance of your model, was just keep it simple, raise the money, get the money to the people who need it. I mean, does it kind of feel that way? Like, I don't know, some organization heads out there are like feeling a little bit embarrassed or a little bit shaded that you did something like this, that you showed them, hey, this is possible.
Yeah, I definitely would say that we rose to provide a solution to this trying occasion that many established organizations have not been able to do. And I'm sure that there are some who wish that they had this success. But the reality is that the response, from community leaders, from community members, has been overwhelmingly positive. There is so much right now in the world to be angry at, with our pandemic, with systemic racism, with everyday life challenges. One of the stories that impacted me the most, that I still just brings tears to my eyes, was from a woman named Olatane. And she, after we funded her, she said to us, I was faced between the choice of either paying for my rent or getting my son's body from the morgue. Thanks to the Black Resilience Fund, I didn't have to make that choice. I was the first person to hold his body in this world, and I get to be the last. Wow. I didn't want to hear that. I didn't want her gratitude. I felt like she had every right to be mad at the world, to have anger and hate. And after a few days, I had to sit with myself and realize this is exactly why we're here. This isn't just about giving somebody money. We're giving them something to hold on to, something positive, so that they can focus on healing and living their best life. So I would honestly argue that our model is not simple. It requires us being willing to envision society in a different way than we have before. That paradigm shift takes a lot of work.
Yeah, it really does. Cameron, we have to unfortunately let you go, but we'll be in touch, and we'll have you back, one of your folks out there in Portland.
I'll just say one more thing. We are doing a national webinar for folks to learn more about our best practices with Beneficial Bank. It will be September 17th at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Go find details at blackresiliencefund.com.
Excellent. Thanks for that. I appreciate that. Yeah, blackresiliencefund.com for more there, and try to make that webinar if you can. We've been talking with Cameron Whitten, who is co-founder, executive director of the Black Resilience Fund out there in Portland. And, maybe we'll start seeing that kind of spreading to a community near you. Cameron, thanks for this work. This is good work. Really appreciate you and appreciate your time this morning. Thank you. All right. And it's definitely, I'm hoping it's inspiring folks in places like Philly to do similar work. And I know there are people out there who are trying to do that work as well. And we had a conversation, for example, with the Philly Black Giving Fund, which I want to reach out to them, have them back on and talk to them more about how they can expand and look a little bit more like that Black Resilience Fund model too. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900. Phone lines are open, and let's take a break and we'll be right back.
Pico has many ways to help you lower your energy usage and save money at home. Here's one. Have an old working fridge or freezer in your garage or basement? Pico will pick it up, dispose of it responsibly, and give you a $75 rebate. That's right, $75. Plus, you could save as much as $150 a year on your energy bill by getting rid of it. Just schedule your pickup at pico.com/recycling or call 1-888-5-PICO-SAVE today. Be sure your fridge or freezer is plugged in and working at time of pickup.
Be heard. Want another way to join the conversation? Follow us on social media using the hashtag onWURD. Be heard. Stay connected to Word Radio. Independent Black Media.
JD's Auto Body and Painting is hiring talent for the following positions. Assembler, preferably 2 to 3 years experience, able to tear down and reassemble all make and model cars. Painter, must have at least 5 years overall painting experience, including experience in water-based paint and able to prep cars for paint jobs. Auto Body Technician, looking for an A or B technician, must have at least 5 years experience repairing cars. Please send your resume to JD's Auto Body and Painting at Comcast.net. That's JDS Auto Body and Painting at Comcast.net or call 215-848-5949 for more details. JD's Auto Body and Painting is an equal opportunity employer.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the lingo.
GOAT, G-O-A-T, acronym, stands for Greatest of All Time. As in, spaghetti sandwiches for dinner? They're my fave. Dad, you're the GOAT.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on Word Radio and wordradio.com.
All right, welcome back to Reality Check 96.1 FM, 900 AM, wordradio.com, Word TV, Word app. Phone lines are open at 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900. Let me go to Jacob out of Olney, who's calling in for a Reality Check. Jacob, what's good? How you doing, sir?
Peace be unto you, Brother Ellison.
Peace, brother. All right, thank you.
And the Troy Wilmore, man. I remember back in the day when the late Johnny Sample, I guess he used to produce Johnny's show. And Johnny used to give him all the accolades in the world. He used to say, I wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for Troy. So
that's right.
That was a relationship, you know.
Yeah. Troy always doing good work there on behind the scenes.
Yeah, but you know what?
Thank you.
And you was talking about Portland, right? I used to love when we used to do the West Coast tours because we would start it up in Seattle, Washington, and then work it all the way down to San Diego, you know. And that like you said, that's beautiful country up there, man. You know,
yeah, it is.
You know, your earlier guest, man, the guy that I heard him praise Donald Trump and his squad 15 times, and then when he got to Biden and the brother from South Carolina, he tried to, to me, and I totally disagree with him. It's almost like I say, you know what? Lucifer, the devil, man, he had his game together, man. Everything was cool. Them people like Muhammad and Jesus and Moses, they didn't have anything together. That's what it sounds like to me. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You talking about Mike Green?
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. He was praising Trump too much. He got his thing together. His people, they're a bunch of, they're a basket of deplorables of what they are, right?
Yeah,
So,
I think the point he was trying to make was like how they have their, like how they're executing their strategy. I don't think he was so much praising them as he was so much saying like, we need to watch them carefully. Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that you had to, sort of figure that out. You didn't figure out when he got to Biden and the black brother from South Carolina, because he totally, like he beat them down right away. So I mean, again, my mother taught me opinion is like a body part. Everybody got one, but I totally disagree with it. Like I said again, you could look at what Satan and his imps did in the world to this point. You're gonna lift that up? I don't want to copy what Satan and his people did, right? I don't care. They ain't nothing but the basket of deplorables that Hillary Clinton spoke about and then apologized. I don't apologize. They that now, they that tomorrow. And what did they say? Segregation now? What was the guy that said that? George Wallace. I'll say what he say about them people. They that, and until they change their wicked ways, that's who they're going to be. But thank you for letting me get that on. Thank you, brother.
No, thank you for that, George, Jacob. I really appreciate. Excuse me, Jacob, out of Olney. It's a good point. I understand the points that Mike was making, but there was another listener on Facebook Live who had some issues with what Mike was saying earlier. I started to sense it a little bit too, so I wanted to get into an exchange with Mike, but we ran on time. Kevin Waters was saying here on Facebook Live, I get why you have this guy on, but he sounds like he is trying to suppress the black vote. I understand what we will get. How come this guy doesn't? So, and that's a very good point. So we'll bring Mike back on and have more exchange. Mike is definitely. I've seen him very active on social media, and I've read his analysis. I've read his commentary. He's very, very critical of the current administration, of the Trump administration. He's been very critical of kind of this, of white nationalists and white supremacists. But he's also pushing this other message about, not just black economic empowerment, but making sure that we make firm demands, that we don't miss this moment to also ensure that those demands are not just heard, but those demands are also being implemented. So I think it's a tricky balance, right? Because you don't want to, in the process of making those demands, and we have that conversation almost daily here on Reality Check, in the process of making those very sharp demands, like, for example, reparations, for example, you don't want to throw an election at the same time, because you're not going to achieve those demands in a civic society, in a democratic society, in a society like this. You're not going to achieve those demands without first winning an election, putting the people who are as closely aligned to your viewpoints, to your perspective and your interests as possible, and delegate them, hold them accountable to put that policy in place for you. Because reparations is a policy decision. That is pure public policy. Any decision that's made to impact or affect an entire community of people is a public policy decision, and that has to be deliberated upon, that has to be thought about, that has to be crafted and drafted, put into legislation, and then passed as a law through a variety of institutions, from your city council to your state legislature, your state house, your state senate, to your Congress, right? And then you have various executives in that scheme of things, whether it's a mayor or a governor or a county executive or a president. they finally sign those bills into law. I mean, that's just how that process works. So people have to be realistic about the pathway to realizing those demands. And the first step to realizing the pathway or starting to create and crystallize that pathway to the demands actually happening is voting, right? And also, like we were just having a conversation earlier, also doing things like taking the census. You have to take the census because the census, there's an enormous amount of money of federal dollars that's being dispersed, that's being distributed to different populations in different communities. And the more we aren't aware of the census, the more we're not taking the census, the more we're forfeiting those resources. We're forfeiting resources, we're forfeiting political representation, and that forfeiting, that process of forfeiting, when we're not participating in something as simple as the census. Once again, it's a free exercise. It's open to the public. You can do it, and particularly if you're Black, you live in a Black community. You need to, you on that census form, and there's little tricks that they play in terms of the types of groups that you can affiliate yourself with, but you're Black, especially if you live in an all Black community and you want resources coming to that Black community. You want that, you're tired of arguing about food deserts and the fact that you got to go for miles to get some decent groceries. Okay, well, take that census and encourage your neighbors and friends and family to take that census so y'all can get the kind of grocery store you want. So you don't have to trek for miles, on the other side of town or into another neighborhood or into a suburb to get a decent meal or just to get a decent quality or level of food. You want that school fix, or you want a school in your neighborhood, you got to take that census, and you got to encourage everyone around you. Check in with them. Hey, did you take that census? So these are just very simple things, very simple. And it to Jacob's point, one, it goes back. Even I was growing up with that phase. My grandmother used to say that a lot. What's when people are saying, well, for what is it for the sake of argument, being it just escaped me, like when you're trying to make an argument and you're saying, well, so you kind of raise an example argument and you bring the devil into it. But anyway, my grandmother used to say, you don't want the devil to be in it. Like, you don't want to give the devil's argument, just give your own argument. Give the argument that's what's going to get you to the right place, right? So you definitely don't want to be replicating what the devil does. But to Jacob's point, it never ceases to amaze me how we complicate these very simple things. Voting, getting registered to vote and turning out the vote, it's a very simple thing. But yet we're having all of these extra conversations about how we shouldn't do it or how we should question it. It's just do it. You know what I mean? Like, my grandmother didn't need to take me to the polls with her at the age of 4 and let me pull that. She didn't need to do that. She didn't complicate it. It was I learned from the age of 4, it's a real simple thing to do, but it's very impactful. Or things like taking the census. It's like we psych ourselves out. We take ourselves out of the game. Like, I don't understand that, and we have a problem with it. We do. Some of the same folks out there talking about problems with voting and problems with the census and things like that. They have a problem. They talk about their kids, being in a game, like a basketball game or football game. Don't take yourself out of the game. It's like, well, you doing the same thing, and then you wonder why some of these kids out here doing the things that they're doing. It's like, when we as adults, we're not setting a good example. A lot of us out there are not setting a good example at all. When we punk out like that, on really simple but impactful, effective things like voting and taking a census. Or even like with the brother I just talked to, Cameron Witten, was doing Black Resilience Fund, simple stuff. It never ceases to amaze me how there's a lot of folks in our community just psych themselves out of starting or initiating or precipitating or participating in things like that. It just, you can see the look of incredulity and stupefaction on my face. It just never ceases. It has always stunned me. Just very simple things, just do it. What are you waiting for? Anyway, all right, that wraps this Tuesday edition of Reality Check. Continue to go to #WordOnPolitics. for more analysis and assessment of Democratic National Convention Day 2. So you will see us there at #WordOnPolitics. I have some more coming to you soon. The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders is coming up next here on WURD. So keep your WURD radio dial locked in and your Word TV locked in and all of that. Check out The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders coming up next. I want to thank Troy Wilmore as well at the Board of Steel, making it all happen from behind the scenes. Thank you for that last comment, Jacob. I'm sure Troy appreciates that. Also continue to reach me, twitter.com @EllisonReport, #RealityCheck. Okay, Philly, that wraps this Tuesday edition. Please stay sharp, stay smart. More importantly, please stay safe out there. Have a great afternoon, good evening. God willing, I hope to see you tomorrow, Wednesday, 10 a.m. sharp. Take care.